Yo, yo, yo. Okay, we've taken a break, we've made a few videos, and we're back for more. And I'm just trying to figure out how to get just a portion of the top of the screen to be the background. Because if I can figure that out, then we can have a better text explanation at the top. But it's kind of tricky. Hello everyone, thanks for joining us. Ah, that's irrational. Yeah, that's a good one. Hello Diva, hello everyone else. Yeah, let's get some more conversations going, some more debates going. Let's get some more people joining, coming up on and asking their crazy questions, right? And let's get some more debates. Let's get into the logic. Let's see if people can defend their opinions. No, let's not do that to everyone. We're against violence. We're for peaceful activism only, right? That's the best way to cause extinction, with peaceful activism. Because if you use violence, guess what? You're going to get arrested and you won't be able to do activism ever again. So that doesn't really help. And we have to work towards total extinction, which can't be done with random acts of violence either. So, all right, this guy's literally calling for people to be murdered, so we're going to have to ban him.
Hello, James.
Hang on a second. Hello, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I had a question. I don't know if this has been asked before. Probably has, but
Yeah,
what do you think is the most peaceful way to go about extinction?
Euthanasia, right? Putting people to sleep, putting animals to sleep, right?
Okay, I have a question though, right? Because we're talking about also animal extinction. Of all life. Yeah. And humans can kind of consent to that euthanasia, so it wouldn't just be plain murder, but animals can't really comprehend that, so do you think it would be moral to just put them down that way?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I mean, euthanasia isn't I don't know much about that, but isn't painful though, or is it
it's not more painful. It's not the most painful thing in the world.
Yeah, I guess. All right, well, you're my favorite creator, man. Thank you, I guess. You're the GOAT, dude.
Thank you. Everybody give this person a follow quickly. All right, thank you for coming up. Thanks for the support. Moving on, we have more people in the queue already. So let's get the next guest on. Hello, how you doing?
Hi, man. I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Do you have any questions?
I mean, I have a question, but you've probably been asked it 1,000 times.
Yeah. Why haven't I started with myself?
No, not that. I mean...
Okay. Good.
It's
good.
So how there is an elite circle in the world, and they're obviously gonna not participate in this. You know what I mean? So it's just gonna be more and more elites, and the world is just gonna be ran by gods, bro. You know what? You get what I'm trying to say. I think this is just for the middle class or the lower class. I don't think the high class will contribute to this. I don't think everybody will actually go.
Right? But we'll take help from anyone.
Okay.
We have to have a wide net, right? Anyone can join. You get me?
All right. So how will that be extinction then?
How will what be extinction?
Could you repeat that?
How will what be extinction?
When the elites are not going to contribute to it, so how is it extinction then?
Well, we're not going to have 100% participation, right? So it's going to be the ones who do want to do it against those who don't want it.
So this is just a campaign for people that just don't want to have kids. It's not really extinction.
No, it's the opposite, right? So not having kids is the worst type of extinction, right? It doesn't help animals. It doesn't help anyone else. It doesn't actually cause extinction. It can't cause extinction. So not having kids is counterproductive. We actually need to have more children until we can do the most vast and thorough extinction possible, right? That's the only fair way to do it. Because that way you help as much life with as much safety as possible.
Okay, how far in the future do you think this will go to? This is not going to happen in this century, obviously.
It could do. It could start in our lifetimes, yeah.
Okay, what if we somehow achieve immortality? Then what?
Say again.
What if we somehow achieve immortality? Then what?
Well, then we still wouldn't be safe, right? So extinction would still be preferable.
But why if we live forever?
Because then you can suffer forever.
Okay, I see where you're coming from. But I mean, not everybody's suffering there.
Well, how many is too many?
I mean, if you're talking about the third world, I guess, yeah, I mean, it's the majority are in the suffering, but I mean, you look like
Oh,
an
no.
audience.
Even in the first world, how many is too many? Because I would say one is too many. But you clearly seem to you think that, you know, maybe like 1 million is okay, or
I think the majority are happy. I think
so as
just
long
the-
as 51% is happy, they can torture the 49%, right? That's fine.
So you're saying just because one part is just going to shit, we should just take everybody else down as well?
Well, it's not that one part is going to shit, right? They're not part of something. They're individuals. It's
Yeah, I
saying
know that
no individual deserves to be forced into torture for their entire life.
I'd say it's a bit too far. I mean, I would just call it torture.
So
You have control of your own life.
allowing torture for your entire life to a child, not too far. Providing safety from torture, that's too far. So allowing child abuse, that's okay. Don't allow child abuse. Whoa, now let's.
I mean, there's services to prevent that. You know, we are evolving every
We
department.
can't just ban child abuse, right?
I mean,
That's
you
too
can't.
far. That's
you
too
can't-
far. We
can't
need a
ban
bit of
it.
child abuse, you think, right? Is that what you think?
Sorry.
Do you think we should allow some child abuse?
I mean, obviously not, but you know,
Then
it's just,
how else are you going to disallow it? So are you going to
can't.
say
You
say
can't.
we should disallow it, but then allow it, or are you going to actually follow?
I mean,
through?
obviously you can encourage people not to do it, but you know, there's no disallowing.
So
it.
you're going to allow
It's-
it. So you are going to allow it. You're going to say we shouldn't allow it, but then you're going to say, yeah, let's allow it. So you wouldn't make child abuse impossible. You don't think that's important. You don't think that's important.
Yeah, I mean,
No, just let them get abused. Just
Well-
what's a bit of abuse, right?
I'm not. I mean, I'm obviously not saying
You're
that.
getting tempted, right? You're like, yeah.
I'm not really getting tempted. You're just
What is a
hyper-
little bit of abuse? You're right. Yeah.
You're
fuck
just
it,
hyper,
right?
You're just hyperfixating on one negative and outlying all the other positives about the world.
So you think we should ignore the negatives and only focus on the positives, which is like what a criminal would do, right? Let's just steal. Doesn't matter how much suffering you cause, right? As long as you're happy, who cares about the negative?
So
right?
let me get this: you're anti-nature, then, right? Because you know animals eat their own kids. So this is just this is never going to end, obviously,
Why not?
because it's nature. You can't go against nature.
You think that it's got the same chance of ending if we do nothing compared to if we do everything to try and stop it?
I don't think it's ever
That's
going to
interesting.
end.
That's interesting.
I don't think it's ever going to end.
So you
It's-
think you think that we should take your word for it? So we shouldn't try to stop child abuse because some random person on the internet says, "Oh, I don't think it'll ever end."
I mean, we're both random people on the internet with different
Well,
ideologies.
I'm an activist. I'm part of the leadership for this movement. You have no idea what you're talking about. You are just a random person that's come up and said, "Yeah, just allow it. Allow the
I
child."
mean, you're kind of the person that doesn't have an idea what they're talking about because you're talking about extinction, but then you agree that not everybody's going to escape. So
No, I never said that.
yeah, you do. You
No,
just said that the elite circle is going to still live on.
No, I never said that.
No, so you think the elite circle's not going to escape? You think everybody's going to?
We are working towards total extinction.
I don't think so because the time you start getting paid from this, you're just going to like go live your own life and just like give up on this. That's what every person
And how do you know
does.
that? How do you know that? Is it
I mean,
more
it's-
that you just can't argue against extinction? So you're just
It's not
gonna
about
insult
arguing
it?
against this. It's not about arguing against
So
it.
it's just an insult. Yeah, you can't argue against it. So you're just going to say, you know what? I really can't think of an argument against this. So what should I do instead? I know. You're just going to change your mind anyway. Yeah, problem solved, right? Can't argue against it. So what should I do instead? Yeah, it's just too impossible to argue against this. I know, but I'll just say some bullshit instead. That'll work. Fuck it. You're just going to change your mind. You don't believe in this anyway. Oh, there you go. Problem solved, right? You didn't really need an argument. You didn't need logic. You didn't need intelligence. You didn't need reason or to think things through. You can just say, you'll just probably change your mind. Problem solved, right? No need for intelligence. No need for logic. No need for reason. You could just forget that stuff. Just use an insult instead, like you're stupid, or you'll probably change your mind. Yeah, that's much better than logic, right? Yeah, some people, right? They can make you cringe. Okay, moving on. We've got more people in the queue. Somebody's asking in the chat, what is the movement? It's the pro-extinction movement, working towards total extinction to end all suffering. Hello, how you doing?
Hello, I'm okay. I have a question for the pro-extinction movement.
Okay.
So, the police and the law enforcement, how do you plan to evade all of that? Because, I mean, surely once your movement gets big enough, wouldn't the police just like classify it as a terrorist organization, or maybe Russia would just send some bombs to our country and just end us all? Like, how do you plan
I mean,
for that?
we kind of have to cross that bridge when we get to it. But yeah, you know, if it happens, it happens, and we'll just fight on anyway.
Right. Okay, that'd be interesting to see. I'd like to see that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, you've heard of like insurgency, you've heard of grassroots movements, you've heard of, you know, guerrilla warfare. There's lots of ways to do it. You've heard of internet privacy, you know, you've heard of VPNs and stuff. So there's loads of ways that you can resist oppression.
Okay, yeah.
We have to find a way. We have to find a way. Look, we either give up and do nothing, or we give everything.
Yeah, you got it. You got it. That was it.
Thank you, Ben. Good to have you up. And let's see who else we've got. We have Steph Watchers. Steph Watchers coming up next. Hello, Steph.
Hey, how's it going, James?
Yeah, good, thank you. How are you?
So, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. So have you seen recently the EU Parliament has passed the Chat Control 1 bill? So how do you feel about that, man?
No, what is it? Tell us about it.
Oh, so they recently passed a bill where now on any non-end-to-end encrypted app of messaging, the government or
They
essentially...
get a backdoor, right?
Yeah, exactly. So they can view all your messages for possible crime doing, so CSAM, which is the main goal. So I'd assume you agree with this, right? Because now there's going to be less suffering because there's going to be less crime, obviously, in that sector.
Yeah. I mean, I struggle to see it being used against extinction, to be honest, because, you know, we're doing peaceful activism only. So
but I'd say it also resonates with your goal because also you're trying to just end all suffering. So I'd see why you agree with this.
Yeah, it does, right? We prefer safety over freedom. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I just wanted to ask about that. Yeah, but do you see yourself possibly in the future partnering with the government or trying to sort of affiliate your beliefs onto them? Because I think you also realize that it'd be really wonderful if you could somehow resonate with the government and then, you know, establish a connection, right?
Yeah.
That'd be like the ultimate goal, right?
Yeah. I mean, we want to run the government, essentially. That's the plan. Not to work with the government, but to be the government, essentially. Because you can't do extinction any other way. It's the only way.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But the thing is, you know, most politics is going to be against extinction, right? So, you know, if we can get into politics peacefully, then we will try. But at the end of the day, it seems more likely that a revolution would be necessary.
Yeah, revolution. Yeah, I've also been pondering with that thought. And to be honest, every day that passes, I feel like a silver revolution is always, you know, more likely to happen. It's kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah, well, you know, we can't just only do it democratically, right? Because if that fails, right, then we can't just respect democracy forever. At some point, you've got to say, right, forget it. Let's just do a revolution.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. It's just going to be like people like in your group against all others. It's just going to be crazy. It's just going to be all tenfold chaos.
Yeah, it's going to be full on PvP.
Be insane.
It's going to be, you know, capture the flag. It's going to be crazy. But yeah, we have to do it anyway. And look, this might not happen in our lifetimes. This could happen thousands of years from now or hundreds of years from now. It's not likely to happen in our lifetimes, but it could do, right? And we are prepared to do it if we get the opportunity.
Yeah, I definitely understand your perspective. Even though I don't agree with it, I understand what you're trying to achieve. But yeah, that's all I wanted to come up and say. Thanks for having this chat, James.
All right, thank you, Stefan. Moving on, we have toasted something. No, okay, they've gone. Right, if anybody else wants to join, now's your chance. Get your little butts into the queue. We'll bring your ass onto the stage. We'll talk. All right, in the meantime, let's see if there's any questions or comments in the chat. Anything worth addressing? Why don't you believe in God? I've not seen any evidence. Not got a reason to believe in God, right? Okay, who else? Oh no, the screen is glitched. Okay, I fixed it. Right, we've got Daniel joining us next. Daniel believes in God and doesn't understand atheism. Daniel, hello.
Hello. That was in no. So that was in my comment about the God thing.
Oh, is it not? Sorry.
No. But in terms of the movement,
It wasn't Daniel.
in terms of your movement, is it different than that of antinatalism?
Yeah, completely different. So antinatalism is about essentially doing nothing, right? You don't have a kid, you do nothing. That's it. It's inaction essentially. So it doesn't help animals. It doesn't help anyone else's child. It doesn't really do anything. So it's not good enough essentially. So that's like the worst form of extinction, where you help one child which never existed anyway. Doesn't actually cause extinction. So the best form of extinction would be the most vast and thorough extinction possible, which has to be scientifically determined and carried out. Right, so to help as much life in as thoroughly as possible. So that could take a long time, and it's the only fair way to do extinction, right? It's the only fair universal system. So that requires humanity to keep reproducing, to work towards making the best extinction possible. And we have animals, there's other life that we have to consider. So humans have the best conditions, the least suffering, and the only ones capable of actually doing extinction and providing safety for others. Like animals can't help themselves. So we should continue reproducing so that we can help those who can't help themselves first.
I see. So the reasoning is something like antinatalism is only going to be end in the, let's say, extinction of the human species when...
Well, no. So antinatalism won't even do human extinction, right? So
presumably if no one has kids, then you won't have more humans.
But you can't do that, right? You can't enforce it. So antinatalism is about not enforcing that and just hoping it'll happen. But, but that's not the way life works, right? We've evolved to reproduce, to want to reproduce, to be obsessed with it, essentially. So the idea that life which has evolved to reproduce is just going to decide to stop reproducing is very naive, essentially.
Yeah. So what would under the view that you're advocating for? What exactly is? Do we ought to continue reproducing in order to what? Have some type of mass extinction event or something? Or some type of mass...
it's not going to be an event, right? So forget the idea of events, okay? That's never going to happen. But it's about working towards the most vast and thorough extinction possible. So we have to scientifically determine how far our reach is and how thorough we can be as well, right? So if we can do universe-wide extinction and total prevention of life ever coming back, then that would be pretty ideal, essentially. But only science can determine if we can do universe-wide extinction, if we can do total prevention of life coming back on Earth, right? So you can't just get rid of life and hope it'll never come back. That's not good enough. There's a good chance it will come back, right? So you have to do prevention. That's the most important part. And then we should see, if we can do beyond Earth as well.
So, there's maybe a couple concerns. So the main one is, do you think... so you think suffering is bad. I think I agree that suffering is also bad there. But it also seems that plenty of animals, and at least humans, right, are going to have lives worth living. And it seems that if they weren't alive, that would be some type of grave loss, right? So the fact that...
Not really. I mean,
You don't
they don't
think-
need that, right? And they're not actually having that amazing lives anyway, right? Most lives on the planet are pretty terrible.
Well, most people would say that if you ask most people, actually, let me ask you this: if you ask most people, do you think you have a life worth living? You think they would respond with no to that? Their overall, their amount of they have their own evaluation in which the amount of suffering they have in their life relative to the amount of goods
Well,
that they have.
your problem is you're making it about most, right? You're ignoring the individual's rights, essentially. So, we should make it so that no individual is being, forced into a life of torture, basically.
Yeah, so then that's why I'm confused about this point versus the anti-natalist point, right? If the idea is supposed to be, well, no individual should be forced into this, then it seems like what you want to advocate for is people who are already alive to not
Well,
have
no,
children
it's okay
anymore.
to force life into safety, but it's not okay to force it into suffering for no reason.
Well, I think, again, I agree with you. I think that you don't want to force people to suffer. But it seems, again, if you ask people's own self-evaluation on these issues...
Yeah, but again, you're ignoring the individual then. You're saying, essentially, that, 51% of the population can torture 49%, and that's okay. Like, that's not even a problem.
No, I don't
think
think that.
But that's what you're saying. You're saying,
but
if most people are happy, if 51% is happy, then who cares about the 49%?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the
Really?
individual
Because it
people who
sounds like
born
that,
them,
right? It sounds exactly like that's what you're saying.
No, I think.
Well, you said if we ask most people, right, at least 51% will probably be happy. So who cares about the 49%?
No, it's a matter of when you have. So if you have a child, right? You ask the child, well, overall, if their life would have been worth living, it seems that it would be. And so in those kind of scenarios, if that child weren't to exist, it seems the world in which you have, let's say, absolutely no one, versus you have a world where you have a lot of people who are happy, even if there's some suffering, but overall these people have lives worth living. The world in which you have no one seems worse than the world in which you have a lot of people with lives worth living. That's what the claim I'm making is. I'm not saying that you.
So you don't think it's more important to provide safety to those who are being tortured? You think like a bit of fun is more important?
When you say provide safety, I'm not really sure what I think.
Safety from suffering, right? Safety from a life of pure hell, where you'd be better off not existing. Then there are different types, right? In scenarios where you have individuals who have lives not worth living, you then obviously think that that's wrong to bring about those people. But that's why we need extinction, to make sure that never happens again.
But when you do that, when you have extinction, what you're saying is it's permissible. We ought to prevent people from having lives worth living. That's what your position is. That people.
No. The position is that life should never be forced into infinite danger.
But remember, because your claim's supposed to be that we should have extinction, that means that people who have lives worth living shouldn't have lives. Yeah. If you think that there should be extinction.
Well, yeah. You're essentially saying that we should just allow infinite suffering. Long as there's
I'm not of the fan that we should, but that's not my position. My position isn't we should allow infinite suffering.
True.
My position is
forgive me. You would allow 49% of the population to suffer terribly, not infinite suffering.
If you mean allow, if the two alternatives are to allow 49% of the population or mass extinction, but that's obviously not what the
you would. So let's say there's a terrible situation where 51% of the population is torturing 49% of the population. You genuinely think that is better existing than total extinction?
No.
So what percentage can they torture?
When you're saying can they torture?
Yeah.
If they're individuals, so
what percentage is unacceptable? Is there a percentage level that's acceptable, or should? I'm not sure. Hopefully, you'd agree that 99% of the population being tortured, extinction would be better, right?
But keep in mind, this is the scenario that you're talking about is one in which some individuals, I guess 51% of the individuals are actively torturing 49% of them. I don't think that's what's happening in this case. There's a difference.
It doesn't matter if they're actively torturing them or indirectly torturing them. It's the same. The effect is the same. The result is the same.
Okay. Well, actually, I do think it makes a difference if it's intentional.
Why? What difference does it make?
Well, the difference is in cases where when you're actively torturing or actively doing something, you give up a right to life.
You what?
So
Say
in the
again?
same way in take of
No,
self-defense.
say again. I
scenarios.
didn't hear that. So how is it better to be tortured by nature than to be tortured by a person?
No, it's not. It's not a question of better. It's a question of whether or not these individuals have a right to life. And so when you actively torture someone, you're forfeiting a certain right that you have.
Why?
Because it's because why are you forfeiting that right?
Well, no, you're the
because
one
it's
saying
just-
that we should allow torture, right? So which side are you on? Should we forfeit all life if there's torture, or not?
No, I mean, I don't think you should forfeit. Wait, what's the question? If you should forfeit all life if there's torture? No, obviously not, because I think you're doing a grave wrong in doing that, which is
So
you're
Daniel,
depriving
just
people
explain
of
to
life
us.
with
Just
living.
explain to us how much suffering is acceptable, right? What percentage of the population can be tortured by the majority? What percent is
No, I
okay?
think no percentage of the population should be tortured.
Okay, so total extinction then.
Again, that seems weird. It's like me saying, do you think? Let me ask you a question. How much crime do you think is acceptable?
Zero. Well, look, zero suffering, zero cruelty.
Zero crime,
is
so we should
acceptable.
put all people. Why just put all people in prison? Because if everybody goes in prison, then they can't, and they
So
have
just
the
torture
individual
everyone in
cells.
prison. That's
You
your
put
solution.
everyone in individual cells.
Torture,
and they're not
torture
going to hurt
everyone
anybody.
in prison. That's a better world. That's your
So
solution.
remember, if we put everyone in prison, there would be no crime because everyone's in a jail cell.
So just
individually,
torture
right?
everyone in prison. That's your solution.
The point is, it's an analogy.
Daniel, are you serious? That's actually your idea.
No.
You're genuinely serious.
No. That was.
So why are you wasting our time with things that you're joking about?
Well, it's reductio ad absurdum. I'm
Yeah,
saying that the
Daniel,
reasoning
stop
you're
wasting
using,
our
obviously,
time with jokes like that and tell
Those
us
are
how
jokes.
much suffering is acceptable.
It's not reductio ad absurdum aren't jokes.
It was obvious.
I think
Okay,
no amount
but
of suffering-
should
no
I
amount
just
of
kick you
suffering
out
is
then? Right? Were
Why-
you serious about that or not?
You could dodge, I suppose, but I mean, what I'm trying to show, I'm trying to use
okay,
reason,
let me
right?
ask you
I'm
a
trying to
question. How many
reason
times
with
have I asked you how much suffering is acceptable, and how many times have
you
you
know what the
dodged?
response I've been saying is?
How many times have you dodged, Daniel?
I've been saying that no amount of suffering is acceptable. But your
Right.
question is
So-
how much
so
amount of
how are
suffering
you
is going
gonna
to
have-
justify
How are you going to
mass
have
extinction?
How are you going to have a world with no suffering because you've said suffering is unacceptable? So how are you going to have a world with no suffering and with life?
Well, you could try to. I don't know if that's possible.
Right. So,
It's another way of saying, how can
that's
you have a world
your
with certain
position,
freedoms?
Daniel.
How can you have a world with certain freedoms where no crimes are
Okay,
being
I'm just going to have to stop you for a second. So you've said we shouldn't do extinction, but suffering is unacceptable.
Yeah.
So if you don't accept suffering, but you also don't accept extinction, then what do you accept?
I could accept efforts to minimize suffering that also promote.
But
lives
that's
worth
accepting suffering, right?
living. No.
But well, it is if you think about it, because instead of ending suffering, you would just reduce it. Like instead of ending slavery,
Look,
you would just reduce it, right?
In the same way, I want to end all crime, but I also don't think it's okay to put everybody in prison in order to stop.
But
crime.
Daniel, you can't say that suffering is unacceptable and then say we shouldn't end it immediately.
I think certain things should be wrong, but they could be outweighed by other things, right?
So,
I could
okay,
have
so like what? So what outweighs suffering?
the vast amount of lives that are worth living that would have to go extinct, and therefore
Okay,
their
so-
own.
so you think there's a
the amount of
ratio?
harm that
Do you
would
think there's
occur
a
by-
ratio,
by
Dan?
ending those lives?
Yeah. Okay. So let's understand this, right? If I'm going to accept what you're saying, Daniel, then you're going to have to explain how does it work exactly? What is the ratio of happiness to suffering? How many happy people do we need to justify a child being, murdered?
That I'm not sure.
Well,
But keep in
this is
mind,
your
there's a
system.
difference-
This is
there's a
your
difference in the position-
suggestion.
There's a difference
This
in
is
the
your
position. If you're
proposal.
actively advocating, it's a difference in the position because you're actively advocating for the mass extinction of these people, or actually taking efforts to.
Okay, but you're saying the
to
suffering
extinct
is
people.
acceptable, that there's a certain amount which is acceptable. So
I'm not saying
let's,
that if everyone in the world had lives not worth living, then I can maybe understand that. But you have people who have lives worth living. That you're going to
yeah, okay, let's
deprive
work on
them
that.
of lives and harming them by
Let's work on this.
extinction.
So if 99% of the world had a life not worth living, that would be okay. So as long as one person is happy, everyone else can get tortured.
No, but I don't know why you have to kill that. Why would you have to unalive that person for having life worth living, and then the other people? That's the problem.
No,
that I'm
Daniel,
having here.
you're still dodging the question. So how many? What can you give it? How does it work? You're saying that as long as there's a certain amount of happiness, then suffering is okay. So just give us details, right? How does it work?
I'm not saying that if there's a certain amount of happiness that suffering is okay. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I don't think that mass extinction is ought to be. So if you wait, so suffering. I take some weight to suffering. So I think
Hang on,
suffering.
Daniel. You've said that suffering is unacceptable, but you've also said that some suffering is acceptable. You've said that you wouldn't end suffering, you would just reduce it slightly. So I'm getting very confused. Are you against suffering?
Sure.
Do you
I
support
can lay out
suffering?
my view. Let me lay out my view a little better.
What?
So I think that I can lay out my view a little better. So suffering gives you some kind of what it's called. So we could say a pro tanto reason against doing something, which is to say that it gives you some reason to do things just isolated for that thing. What it doesn't give you is a pro toto reason. That's to say an all things included reason to do something here. And so the all things included reason is ending the vast amount of lives that are worth living in order to prevent suffering. It's not going to give you that kind of reason. And I don't know if it gives you any reason to end.
Daniel, this is just gibberish. This is gibberish. Just tell us how much suffering is acceptable.
I don't think this is gibberish.
It is gibberish. Let's just hear a proper argument, right? Not some philosophy nonsense. How much suffering is acceptable?
I think no suffering is acceptable.
What, at all costs, or
no?
So some suffering can be acceptable.
What do you mean by acceptable? Because again,
Google it, Daniel. Google it.
If you mean in terms of the
Daniel,
overall reason,
Daniel, listen. You're saying we shouldn't end suffering because pleasure and happiness is more important, right, than ending suffering. Is that correct?
Making sure not ending people's lives who have lives worth living is more important than preventing suffering. At least, not sorry, preventing suffering. Sorry, than getting rid of suffering in that manner. Sure.
In that manner, why does the manner matter?
Well, the manner in which you're doing it is by ending people's lives who have lives worth living. That's why the matter is important. The same way I could say I want to end crime, but the manner is going to be important. If I end crime by putting everyone in prison, then that's going to be a problem, right? So the manner obviously matters.
So those people who have lives worth living, right? Do you care if the next day their life becomes so bad that it wasn't worth living?
I'd care about that, sure.
So how are you going to prevent that without extinction?
I'm not sure if those kind of scenarios can be prevented.
Well, you can prevent it with extinction, though, right? So you don't think we should try
prevent it in a way that I think is morally permissible.
So it's acceptable. Lives of hell are acceptable.
Acceptable if the alternative is mass unaliving everybody, then I think I would prefer the world in which you have people who have lives worth living.
So you think billions of years of extreme torture is preferable to no billions of years of torture?
No.
That's what you just said. That's what you just said.
That's not what I said, though.
Yeah, it is. It is. You said that, billions of years of more suffering is better than, the amount of suffering it would take to prevent that.
No. And again, if I understand if your position was antinatalism, then you want to advocate for the people who have, if you have these people not getting.
So Daniel, what is it about life? What is it about life that justifies child abuse? Like, let's think of it this way. Would you, Daniel, would you allow somebody to be tortured horrifically for their entire life so that you can have a good life?
No.
Right. So why should we allow that for anyone else? Why should we allow other people to do that?
Because people aren't being tortured in order for me to have a good life.
Say again?
People aren't being tortured in order for me to have a good life.
Really? Do you eat animals?
No.
Okay. Do animals suffer terribly?
Animals do suffer terribly.
And are you helping them? Are you helping them?
Well, I'm not eating animal products.
Right, but are you helping wild animals who suffer?
Wild animals that are suffering? I don't know, but that's not me.
Right, so basically by not helping all of those who are suffering, you are benefiting, right? So essentially you are benefiting from allowing this.
I don't know why I would assume that. That doesn't follow.
Yeah, it does. It does. If you're too selfish to help those who need it, then you're benefiting from allowing their suffering.
That is certainly a stretch there. I'm not sure why.
It's not a stretch.
I don't think it falls out benefit from that.
It's just a fact, Daniel.
If someone is starving on Mars and me not doing anything, I'm benefiting from that. That seems obviously wrong, right? I'd be benefiting from it if somehow their starvation helped me in some way. So if their suffering gave me, if I'm extracting,
but again, you are benefiting from not helping them.
I am benefiting from not. I don't know how.
Clearly, that concept is just above your intelligence level, right? So if you walk past a child that's screaming for help and you ignore it because you're busy doing something else, you benefited from not helping it, right?
No, I mean, I could say I wronged and I have an obligation to help it, but I'm not benefiting from not helping.
So
So
when you go and make that money that you were on your way to make, and you only made it because you ignored the child who needed help, you don't think you benefited from allowing their suffering?
No, I benefited from
Really?
working
Wow.
and making the money,
Wow.
but I haven't benefited from allowing
So
the
let me
suffering.
ask you this. If you didn't allow their suffering, you would have suffered, right? You wouldn't have benefited. So by allowing their suffering, you did benefit, right?
So counterfactually, if I didn't, so on the conditional that if I didn't help them, I would do X. That could be true, but it doesn't mean that the lack of me doing, the absence of my action doesn't cause anything. It's an absence. It's not a thing.
So there's a child screaming for help, and Daniel goes and gets an ice cream instead. Did he benefit from allowing their suffering? Yes,
No,
obviously.
I benefited from getting the ice cream.
Yes, by allowing the suffering and focusing on selfishness.
So the lack of action or the absence of not doing something
Negligence,
isn't a thing. It's an absence.
Yeah, negligence.
It's a negative. It's an absence. It's not a thing. So it's not as if it's
negligence.
don't cause
right?
benefits. Don't
it's
cause
negligence,
anything.
Daniel. It's negligence.
I agree. It's negligence. I never disagreed with that.
And
I agree that
it's
you have
selfish
I think you have an
and
obligation
cruel.
in that scenario to obviously help the child, but it's not a question of benefit. Would be to say that you're benefiting would be a category error there. That's not what that would be. You're benefiting from something else, but it's not benefiting from this.
So you don't benefit from allowing that suffering?
No, you're benefiting from getting ice cream.
Really? So when you decide to
Let me ask you
allow
a question.
it,
Are there double benefits? So do you think you benefit from getting ice cream and also benefit from not saving the child? So it's you're kind of doubling up the benefits. You're
well, no,
bootstrapping
it's the same thing. It's the same thing, really.
So it's the same thing. Okay, so you don't think you're getting double benefits?
So
It's the same
Daniel
thing.
thinks that it's impossible to benefit from not helping people, right? Which is
There are
hilarious.
absences, yeah.
So he thinks it's impossible to benefit from being selfish, essentially, which is
that I don't
which
think.
is insane, obviously, right?
You can obviously be selfish, and you're benefiting from being selfish, but
Yeah,
not
so
selfish.
allowing
you're not
suffering,
benefiting from the
selfishly
absence of
allowing
it.
others to suffer is you benefit from it, right?
You're benefiting. You're benefiting.
Okay,
from
Daniel,
selfishly
look,
getting
I'm
ice
getting
cream.
bored of this. I think we're all getting bored of this now. So let's go back onto the topic. You was trying to say earlier that some suffering, some extreme suffering is justifiable, is acceptable as long as we get pleasure at the end of it, right?
No, suffering is justifiable in terms of you can't mass unalive people in order to prevent it. That's
Why
what the
not?
principle
Why
is.
not? So that's the only reason, right?
Because you're causing a massive amount of harm when you unalive people, because people have lives worth living, and when you unalive people, you harm them.
So it's the harm is the problem. The amount of harm.
I think it's wrong to harm. You think it's permissible to harm people. I think it's wrong to harm people.
So you think that billions of years of more harm is better than a little bit to prevent infinite harm?
There's a difference between allowing for harm to occur and actively harming people. I think you think it's permissible to actively harm people. I don't think it's permissible to harm people.
Yeah, so that's interesting, Dan. You think it's better to allow harm than to cause it?
In certain scenarios, yeah. I think it's.
So who is it better for? So let's say there's an animal suffering terribly, and I didn't cause it, but I allowed it, right? So is that better or worse for the animal?
Well, it's not a matter of if it's better or worse from the animal. It's a question of
Oh,
whether
it's
or not.
not. So the victim who's suffering doesn't matter about them. It's not about them.
What?
So you're saying that it's not about the victim and their suffering.
No, the victim. Obviously, the victim is going.
Wow,
to
so they don't even enter into the whole question. That's amazing, isn't it?
Well, in the scenario where their suffering is it's an isolated variable. So in both cases, if you don't help them or if you actively cause it, it's the same amount of suffering, presumably. So it's just now a question of whether or
exactly.
not.
So if you allow the
Then it's
suffering,
a question of
or if
deontic
you cause
reason.
the suffering, it's just as bad, right?
It's not just. It's the question isn't. So the suffering is just
The
as
victim,
bad.
the victim
question
suffers
of whether
the
the
same.
action is just as
The
bad.
victim suffers just as badly, essentially.
Look, I don't know. Maybe you're a utilitarian, but I think what matters in a lot of cases is not just the consequences, but I think also the way in which the things are, the way in which certain actions are performed.
So
do
do
you
you
think-
think the way it's done is more important than the outcome?
No, that's not what I said. I said those things
Wow.
matter.
Wow. Okay. So look, in the same way, causing suffering is not better than allowing suffering, right? Because the victim suffers just the same. Ironically, you said it's nothing to do with the victim, which just is insane, right? Shows your selfish.
No, what? No, I never said nothing to do with the victim. It's not what I said.
Look, Daniel, you've
I
got
said
this,
when you're
you've got
isolating
the
the
same
suffering
idea
of the
that a lot of
victim.
people have.
Look,
You've got the
I'm telling you right now. I'm presuming you're a utilitarian.
No, I'm an extinctionist. But look, you have the same problem that most people have,
That's
which
not
is
mutually-
this
that's
idea
not mutually exclusive.
that causing suffering is worse than allowing suffering. So if you're in an ocean of suffering, as long as you didn't cause it, then it's okay.
Look,
Right?
you have the impossible view that all that matters is the consequences of an action. I think consequences matter, but I also think the intent
No,
matters.
I think the suffering
and
matters more, right?
That's not mutually exclusive.
Yeah, it
the
is.
thing
I mean,
which-
it kind of is, right? You're saying that
Utilitarian.
the
Wait,
suffering
a
doesn't matter as
utilitarian
much.
could be an extinction. A utilitarian could be an extinctionist.
Okay, you know what? I'm getting bored of this conversation anyway. We're just going in circles. We're talking past each other, and he's dodged every single question I've ever asked him, especially when it comes to how much suffering is acceptable, right? Look, I think the second half of that debate kind of went off the rails, really. But the first half was just Daniel dodging every question, essentially. He was trying. So let's break it down. Let's do a debrief, okay? He was trying to say that, yeah, we shouldn't end suffering. We should just reduce it because we still benefit from it. But again, this is the exact same argument as we shouldn't end slavery because we still make money from it, right? The money is more important than the slave's suffering. So he was saying that existence and happiness is more important than safety, right? So that's a system where you're allowing for infinite suffering, infinite cruelty. You're literally allowing, child abusers to have kids and to do the worst things imaginable to them. This is your argument, Daniel. And your argument was also that we shouldn't do extinction because it causes more suffering than it prevents. Billions of years of extreme suffering. Daniel thinks that wouldn't be as bad as just putting everyone to sleep. He thinks that billions of more years of extreme suffering is preferable and somehow less suffering than a little bit of euthanasia. So, make up for yourselves, guys. Was Daniel smart? Did he dodge every question? I mean, he dodged every question, basically. He went in circles, and when we asked him, how does the ratio work? He couldn't answer, right? He could not answer. So, but actually, I think he did say, yeah, as long as 51% is torturing the 49%, then it's okay. As long as it's at 51%, then they can do anything to the 49%. And I'm not making that up. That's not a straw man. That was Daniel's argument, right? That as long as the majority is happy, then they can do any amount of cruelty or allow any amount of cruelty to the minority. But we live in a different reality where it's even worse than that, because over 99% of the population on this planet gets tortured to death as babies, right? Most animals born onto this planet will be eaten alive as a baby. So we're allowing that, right? And it's not worse than causing it. So think of it this way. So this is another really illogical thing that most people do, like Daniel. They think that if suffering is caused by you, then it's bad, then it's a problem. But if suffering is just there and you didn't cause it, then it's okay. Which means that if you're in an ocean of torture, then it's okay, right? If everyone around you is being tortured horrifically, you have zero moral obligation to help them, right? Just forget them, just ignore them. If you're walking down the street and there's just children being tortured left, right, and center, it's okay. It doesn't matter. It just forget it. Ignore them, basically, right? As long as you didn't cause that suffering, then it's fine. Just forget it, right? Torture, children being abused left, right, and center everywhere you look. Yeah, it's fine. No problem. You don't have to help, right? Because you didn't cause it. That's Daniel's logic, essentially. So, but that's also the same logic that most humans use. They say, as long as you didn't cause the suffering, it's fine, right? Bit of child abuse, bit of animal abuse. As long as you didn't cause it, then don't care about it. Who cares, right? Just if the screams of the children and the animals are too loud, as long as you didn't cause it, then just put your headphones in, right? Just la 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 la. That's okay. So that is Daniel's advice, essentially. But it doesn't make sense, right? Daniel is saying, look, if you're responsible for the fact that the planet is full of torture, then it's a real big problem and you should care. But if the planet is full of torture and you didn't cause it, then you shouldn't care. That's Daniel's argument, right? So should we be a hero and help all of those who are being tortured? No. Only if you caused it, right? You should correct your mistake if you caused it. But help someone that's screaming? No. As long as you didn't cause them to scream, then let them scream, right? It's much better, right? To allow suffering, that's fine, right? That's good suffering. If you caused it though, whoa, then it's a problem. Of course, the thing is, if you have a planet full of suffering like we do, then it's not better just because you didn't cause it, right? The victims don't suffer less because you didn't cause it. So is it better because you didn't cause it? Well, how would it be better? In what way would it be better? You wouldn't have to feel guilty about helping them, right? So it's better for Daniel because he doesn't have to actually do the right thing and help them. So when Daniel says it's better for them to suffer if you didn't cause it than for it to be natural suffering, it's better only for one person, right? The victims suffer the same, so it's not better for them. It's better only for Daniel because he can find an excuse not to help them, right? To ignore the screams, right? To just la 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 la, I can't hear the screams. No, I'm not looking, I'm not listening. That's his suggestion, right? But his suggestion is also, okay, fine, right? You're straw manning me. We should reduce suffering, but we shouldn't just end it, right? That's overkill. So if you're going to reduce suffering, it's the same thing, right? It's saying, okay, let's help a small, tiny portion of the victims, but the rest of them who we're still going to make suffer, la 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 la. So their suffering is acceptable now. Their torture is acceptable. How? Right? Why? So one good way to try and understand all of this is to think about it this way, right? For your personal life, right? Think about yourself. Let's do it on an individual level. This will help you understand the macro level. So would you want, if the only way for you to live was for children to be tortured horrifically, right? Abused, tortured. And let's just say it's one child, right? Just one child. At the same day you get born, they get born, but they effectively go to hell, right? They just get tortured all day, every day. Would you do that? Would you make that trade? Do you think that your life and watching Netflix for your life, for your personal life, is it worth it? Would you accept it? Would you say, right, I want to live so badly that I am willing to let a child be tortured for their entire life if that's the only way? So Daniel would say yes, right? Daniel would say, yeah, well, life existing. What about the joy? What about the happiness, right? Don't think about the negatives, think about the joy. So that Daniel would do the irresponsible thing. He would say, yeah, let that child get tortured horrifically so that I can live, right? But if you're a normal person, if you have even slight intelligence or a little bit of sense, then hopefully you would say, no, I would not allow a child to be tortured for their entire life just so that I can live. I would give up my life to make sure that a child isn't tortured for their entire life just for my expense. So hopefully you would all agree with that. Unfortunately, most people probably won't, which makes you a bad person. Yeah, absolutely. If you really think that anyone should be tortured for their entire life just so that you can watch Netflix, then I'm sorry to tell you, but you are a bad person. And so it doesn't get better just because it's someone else getting to live at the expense of someone suffering, right? In the same way that you hopefully wouldn't want a child to be abused every day just so that you can have a little bit of fun and watch Netflix, no, that doesn't suddenly become more valid because someone else does, right? So we can say, yeah, okay, I wouldn't be that selfish. But you shouldn't turn around and say, but that guy is selfish, so we should allow a child to get tortured so he can have fun. Which is what Daniel would do, right? He would say, well, I wouldn't torture a child so I can have fun, but who am I to stop Bob down the road from torturing a child so he can have fun? No, right? No, we should have a zero tolerance policy on lives of pure hell and extreme suffering, right? And the thing is about reducing suffering is that you're still allowing suffering. You're still saying it's acceptable. You're still saying, yes, let the children get tortured. Let the animals be tortured by psychopaths, because we've reduced it to an acceptable amount now. But no, so we're never going to accept that, right? People like Daniel would happily have, a society of happy people with children being tortured, right? So again, it doesn't have to be somebody doing it on, directly. If it's indirect, it's just as bad. So let's say you have 1 billion happy people, right? 1 billion people, they're living happily, okay? But one person has to get tortured for their entire life to make it happen, right? That let's just say that the person is really depressed, but is too embarrassed to admit it, okay? So that person suffers horrifically for their entire life so that, the 1 billion people can have fun. Now let's also say, let's make it more obvious, right? So he's not hiding it. Let's say he's got chronic pain and, he's in chronic, terrible suffering for his entire life and would be better off not existing, right? So Daniel would say, look, the 1 billion people, they should ignore the sufferer, right? They should focus on their own happiness and they shouldn't care about suffering, right? If somebody is suffering and is in terrible pain, we shouldn't care, right? We should selfishly only focus on ourselves. That's the right thing to do. Be selfish, only care about yourself, because your pleasure is more important than the suffering of that victim. Okay? So that is Daniel's perspective. That is what most people's perspective is, right? I'm using Daniel as a joke here at this point, but really over 99% of humans believe that yes, if there was a society with 1 billion happy people and one person was being tortured horrifically for their entire life, that's okay, right? That's okay. And instead of caring about the victim, you should focus on your own life and your own happiness. You should ignore the victim. If you walk past them and hear the screams or something, you should walk away, right? Because your happiness, your comfort is more important than that victim and their safety. So that is the society that Daniel wants, right? He wants a society where we quite literally accept extreme suffering, allow extreme suffering, and ignore it as well, right? Now, Daniel's version of not ignoring the extreme suffering, if we're going to steel man Daniel here, then his version of, no, I wouldn't ignore the extreme suffering, I'd try and reduce it, right? So his version would be to study the suffering, right? To reduce it, right? How can we reduce this suffering? But ultimately, you're still allowing the victims to suffer, right? It's a bit like animal testing or animal experimenting, right? It's like, we should use their suffering for our benefit, right? We should they're still going to suffer terribly. They're still going to scream and beg for death. We're not going to give them the death. We're going to study it so that maybe we can reduce this for future generations, right? Fuck this person, let them suffer, but maybe we can learn about suffering and prevent it in the future. But is that okay, though? Is that ethical, right? Should we allow that victim to be tortured for their entire life so that it can maybe help someone else in the next generation? Is that ethical? Because that is 100. This is the no straw man version of Daniel's argument, right? This is the actual version. It is that, we should allow the suffering, not try and stop it, let it happen, and maybe reduce it a little bit. So that means that we're saying, suffering is acceptable. Extreme suffering is acceptable because pleasure and happiness is more important. But by that logic, it's like, what sort of cruelty is acceptable, right? And also, it's just wrong, basically. So for intelligent people who are smart enough to understand things properly, they will understand that no amount of happiness, 1 billion people being happy, does not outweigh the suffering of one victim. Okay? So those billion people, they don't need that happiness, whereas the one victim does need to not be tortured for their entire life. And essentially, if you actually care about life, then it becomes much more obvious. So that's part of the real problem here, is that people like Daniel and Portland, they don't actually care about others, right? They don't actually care about them. And that's why they're happy for them to be tortured, because essentially for people like Daniel and Portland, they see the world in this way. Okay, this is how they see the world. Not like, oh God, there's suffering, what should we do? They see the world in this way. Okay, you ready? Oh yeah, there's some people suffering terribly. I'm glad that's not me. And there's some people that aren't suffering terribly. Well, that benefits me, right? I might, have a relationship with them. I might make friends with some of those people. So that's all they care about, right? Is the happy ones, oh, that benefits me. A happy world, I get to go and live in it. Those who are suffering, well, maybe we'll study from them and learn how to suffer less. That's all they are, right? Is a stepping stone. Those who suffer are essentially a tool to be used. They're not something to be protected or cared about. It's like a cautionary tale. Oh, you don't want to suffer like that guy. But how about, oh, that guy shouldn't suffer, let's help him, right? Instead of, oh, you don't want to suffer like that, how about, that guy shouldn't have to suffer like that, let's help. So most people are just seeing this selfishly, and basically, when you see the world in a selfish way like most people do, you completely ignore those who suffer. It means that you don't care about the suffering, right? It means that you are never going to care about the suffering. Most humans only care about happiness and their own selfish life. Bro, you're exaggerating everything. No, I'm not. How am I exaggerating? This is true, right? Most humans are happy for animal exploitation, human exploitation, wild animals to suffer, with 99% being eaten alive as children. Right? There's no amount of suffering that would make these people care, right? But if you did care about life, you would say, oh my God, 99% of animals are being tortured, the other 1% are suffering terribly, humans are suffering terribly, we shouldn't allow this, right? But essentially, no amount of cruelty or suffering will make Daniel care, right? So Daniel's going to be there, he's going to be watching Netflix, and guess what? 1% of the population is being tortured. This is Daniel's reaction. 2% get tortured. 3% are now being tortured. So it gets all the way up to 49% of the population is now being tortured, and Daniel still says, well, it's not me, so why should I care, right? Most of the world is fine. So it gets to 51% of the world is now being tortured, okay? Daniel now says, well, it's still not me, so who cares, right? It now gets to 99% of the world is being tortured, and Daniel now says, still not me, so who cares, right? And that's not a straw man, right? Daniel's saying, no, I never said that, but that is the truth, okay? 99% of the population of on Earth is being tortured horrifically. Over 99% of the population are wild animals in the worst conditions, where over 99% are suffering terribly and being eaten alive as babies. They're either starving to death, burning alive in wildfires, being eaten alive, freezing to death, getting accidents, bleeding out, illnesses, diseases, chronic pain. So there is no amount of cruelty that would make Daniel say, all right, fine, we shouldn't allow this, right? Daniel would much rather say, okay, look, 99% of the population is being tortured horrifically, which again is the actual truth. Okay, that is what is happening, right? Over 99% of life on the planet is born as an animal to be eaten alive as a baby. So Daniel says, right, 99% of the planet is suffering so badly that they'd be better off not existing. Do I care? Should we stop this? How about, instead of putting an end to this, we support reducing suffering, which is essentially doing nothing, right? So there's never been a reduction of suffering for wild animals. Wild animals have always suffered terribly, and it's never improved, right? Can you really explain a time that animals have developed medicine, they've started building houses, they've started building laws and legislation? No, animals have always suffered the same, the worst, right? 99% get eaten alive as babies, okay? And if you saw that happen to a human, hopefully you'd be horrified. But people are happy for it to happen to animals for some reason. So, yeah, Daniel would say, all right, let 99% get tortured. And yeah, there's no way to reduce their suffering, but maybe we will in the future, right? But there's no urgency. As long as, basically, the only solution is extinction, right? That's a fact, right? That's the only way to end suffering and to prevent suffering. Especially for wild animals, right? How are you going to reduce their suffering? Get out of here. You can't, right? So the only solution is extinction. And essentially, most people, like Daniel, are saying we should never use that solution. Never. Even though it's the only solution. So instead, they would prefer basically to not solve it, to not have a solution, not advocate for a solution, because again, Daniel is not advocating for a solution for wild animal suffering, right? I am. He's not. He's saying, though, that we should hope that one day somebody will start to reduce it, but we shouldn't really rush it urgently. And so this logic just doesn't make sense, right? The idea that if 99% of the population is being tortured and the only solution is extinction, that we shouldn't do it. That's just insane, right? And Daniel had no actual explanation for why that specific solution, the only solution, is wrong, right? He had no explanation for that. So it just doesn't make sense, right? It's insane. It's if you really think that Daniel is being sincere when he says we should reduce suffering, then you're believing a liar, right? You fell for a lie, right? You believed a lie. Daniel knows that wild animal suffering is never going to reduce. He just simply doesn't care about it, right? So for these people that accept suffering and are happy for it to happen, again, no amount of suffering is going to make them care, right? Do you really think that some amount of suffering will make them care? And the answer is no, right? Again, 99% of the population on Earth is being tortured to death as animals, as children, right? So it's already 99% being tortured. So obviously there's no amount that you can't say, well, if 99.9% suffer terribly, then Daniel will care, right? Daniel's never going to care. There's no amount of suffering that will ever make him care or ever support the end of suffering, right? So these people would literally have one person happy and an entire universe being tortured, right? They would. And if you don't think they would, then you're being naive. You're being very naive, right? Just imagine for 1 second that Daniel is now the master of the universe, okay? And there's loads of planets under his control. And now just imagine that they're all full of torture, right? It's just animals ripping each other apart. All of Daniel's planets, which have beautiful nature on them, right? They're full of animals suffering horrifically. Now, do you really think Daniel is going to support extinction? Is he going to support the end of their suffering? Is he going to care that all of his planets are full of extreme suffering? No, Daniel is never going to give a flying fuck, okay? So when he says, oh, well, I ethically support the reduction of suffering, it's bullshit, okay? It's bullshit. It would be like a slave owner saying, look, we're getting pillows, we're getting cushions for the slaves, so we don't need to end slavery, we can improve slavery. Slavery 2.0, right? So fuck that. Fuck slavery 2.0. Fuck your suffering 2.0. Fuck reducing suffering. Fuck reducing slavery. End slavery. End suffering. End extreme suffering, right? Daniel is literally saying we shouldn't end slavery. We should reduce it because we still benefit from it, right? It is the exact same fucking thing, right? And again, extreme suffering and lives of pure hell, a life where you're trapped in just pure hell, that is worse than slavery. So lives of extreme suffering and pure hell is worse than slavery. So, you know, if you wouldn't reduce slavery, you'd support ending slavery because of how terrible it is. Why the fuck would you support reducing, you know, cruelty instead of ending cruelty, right? That's just insane. That's cruel. It's selfish. It's evil, right? It's literally saying we have a solution to all of the extreme cruelty, but we're not going to use it. We're going to hold out for a solution that doesn't exist. I'm not actually working towards that solution. I can't even suggest how it would begin to look like. And basically, I don't give a fuck. Right? That's essentially Daniel's real mask off position, right? Mask off position. Let's deal with his actual serious positions, because the thing is, people like Daniel are not honest. So yeah, you have to tell the truth about what they're really saying, and you can call it a straw man all you want, but it's the fucking truth. Nikki, hello, how you doing?
Good, how are you? Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, all good.
Okay, good. I got you on a Bluetooth headset, so I just got to make sure. I don't want to be a bother to anybody. I'm curious. So, I mean, what are your thoughts? Do you believe that human beings have value, like intrinsically?
I would say that all life has value, right? But that doesn't mean that it should exist. What's more valuable than life existing is safety from suffering. So the priority should always be safety, not life existing, right? If you prioritize life existing over safety, then you're leading to extreme suffering, right?
Well, what good is safety without existence?
Well, think of it this way, right? Would you want to live in hell?
It would depend. I mean, I guess you'd have to define hell. If it's fire and brimstone, no, I wouldn't.
Okay, so yeah, you wouldn't want to live in hell. So you can agree that, yeah, terrible types of existence are you're better off not existing, right? So that's it. But we shouldn't reserve it for hell, right? It should be all life. So no life should exist without certainty of safety. And you shouldn't say, well, if it's hell, then all right, we'll do extinction. But if it's just slightly better than hell, but still pretty bad, then we'll allow it. No, that's cruel. It's unnecessary. It's unfair. It allows for infinite cruelty, right? You're literally allowing for pedophiles to have children and to torture them and abuse them if you do that, right? So we shouldn't allow anything like that.
Sure. I mean, that's assuming that our natural world is comparable to hell. I mean,
But
hell
it is,
often
right? It
described
is. Look, for a child
I mean,
who's being abused for their entire life and then murdered, it's effectively hell, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree that there's so much unnecessary evil in the world. You know, that should. I would say, yeah, it ought
But
to
I would say
stop.
there's no. I would say there's no. You say there's unnecessary evil, right? I would say that there's nothing. There's no necessary evil, right? That we should just have total extinction, right? We shouldn't have. There's no such thing as necessary.
Then there's no necessary
evil.
good either.
Sorry.
I mean, then there'd be no necessary good either.
Yeah, but good isn't necessary, whereas safety from suffering is necessary.
Do you believe safety from suffering is an inherent good?
I wouldn't say anything is inherently good. Like we shouldn't generalize like that. We should use nuance and intelligence.
I had posed this question in the comments. I don't know if you saw it. Do you believe that existence is a product of suffering?
No, I would say that suffering is a product of existence.
Well, if the natural world and us and everything exists within a system that induces suffering, you know, we don't have much control over animals. That I don't necessarily attribute cruelty to animals. I just believe that they're working within their nature. So and you also describe nature as a beautiful thing, but within the natural world, you have all of this.
Yeah, no, nature's horrible.
Ripping
Nature's
each other
horrible.
apart.
Yeah, we have to get rid of nature.
But you call it beautiful.
No, like obviously some people can see it as beautiful, right? But ultimately, it's only beautiful if you ignore all of the cruelty within it. So
I think people accept it. You know, nature has a brutality to it that.
Yeah, people accept it because they're not experiencing it. Right? Look, if your mother was eaten alive as a baby, right, you might have a problem with it. But as soon as it happens to someone else, you don't care.
Oh, I think I would care.
Well, then do care, right? Care for every animal.
but I can't stand in the woods in any given place at any given time with a gun to stop that.
But we can work towards a universal system for all, right? So we're working towards extinction for all, total extinction, right? So that's the only way to end suffering. So it's the only right thing to do.
So I mean, if why is suffering bad if living beings, sentient beings, don't have some sort of level of inherent value? At that point, why would suffering even be bad?
Where is this inherent value going to come from, right? Look.
Well, obviously, you're making the claim that suffering is bad. Suffering is bad because it's bad for people or animals because it hurts them, harm, whatever. Why would any of that harm or suffering be bad if those things that it's happening to don't have some level of value?
Well, you see, you're talking about objective value, right? So it doesn't have to be objective, right? I can say I value them, and that's good enough.
Okay, I mean, I guess then
Why not?
I don't
Why
see
not?
why you have
Why the hell not, right? Why the hell not?
So you believe it's like, I guess it's like a subjective morality.
Well, I would say that extinction is the only rational position, right? So it is objectively rational, and there is no way to rationally argue against it, right? You will get destroyed if you try, right? So people cannot defend any sort of position against extinction. It's indefensible, whereas extinction is, infinitely defensible, basically.
Do you believe all suffering is bad?
Yeah.
So even somebody who's maybe suffering through the pain of working out in the gym to, make themselves stronger.
It's bad when it happens, yeah. If they actually suffer, right? If they don't enjoy it, then it's bad when it happens, yeah.
Or perhaps putting somebody who's addicted to drugs through rehab and they have, got to go through detox.
Yeah, exactly. So the suffering is still bad, right?
But
it's still
the product of their suffering. As a product of their suffering, a good comes out of it.
Yeah, but it's still bad that they have to suffer, right? And they don't always get a good come out of it either.
So, I guess your claim would be like you shouldn't have to even feel pain to build your body or to detox or.
No, the thing is, you're thinking about like the privileged situation, right? It's not about nobody should have to go to the gym. It's nobody should have to be like raped to death as a child.
I would agree with that 100%. Committing acts of evil on other people is certainly, I'll agree with you, it's certainly a lot different than putting yourself through.
The problem is that
suffering.
keeps happening, and nobody is saying that we should make it impossible, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, if I could snap my fingers now and I could end all evil in this world, I
that's
hope I do. But here's the thing: is that it would but then I would disappear too because I know I've committed.
But you can't just click your fingers. What you can do is activism, right? You can actually take action.
Okay, I would agree with that. You're right.
That's what we're doing at the pro-extinction movement. We are doing activism for the end of all.
What is the act? So then the action, I guess, is what that you're advocating is what, self-termination?
No. So that doesn't help animals, right? So we're advocating for the most vast and thorough extinction possible, right? So providing as much safety to as much of the world as possible, as much prevention of life as possible, right? So that's the most fair way to do it. And so, because that affects as many life forms as possible, right? And so the only fair way to do extinction is to do the best extinction, especially considering that we can do it for ourselves. Animals can't do it for themselves. So we have to do the best extinction possible for those who can't do it for themselves, right? So the only way to do that is to determine scientifically what is the most vast and thorough extinction that we can do. And so in order to get there, humanity does have to keep reproducing. So, if we just go extinct now, then, like animals will keep suffering, right? So we won't really have reduced suffering very much.
How do you suppose you achieve your ultimate goal of ending suffering with total extinction without causing more suffering?
It doesn't matter if it causes more suffering, but it's impossible for it to cause more suffering than it prevents. So, You know, it's like saying to a doctor, you know, how are you going to give that injection without causing a bit of pain? He's going to say, well, I'm just going to give the injection.
So it's the idea of it doesn't matter how much suffering it induces, as long as the end goal is extinction to prevent future suffering for even things that don't even exist yet.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're putting more value on things that don't even exist yet than you are on things that are happening.
It's not about putting more value on them, right? It's about having fair value for all, right? So instead of only caring about life which exists today, yeah, of course we should consider all life, including potential life, right? Otherwise it's discrimination. So yeah, preventing.
You can't really discriminate something that doesn't exist, can you?
Say again?
You can't really discriminate against something that doesn't exist yet, can you?
Well, you can prevent something from coming into existence, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty, and I'm not saying I don't think I have a rational. I don't really know where to go from here. I just think that it's a.
That's a win. That's a W. That's a W.
I mean, you could. No, it's just that I can't really get past the idea of you know, if things have value, so much so that they should not suffer. You know, the idea of getting rid of everything.
Well, let me ask you this.
Just makes no sense to me.
If you can propose an alternative to extinctionism, then I'm listening, right? I'm here listening. But I would love you to even think of an alternative, right? If you can think of it, then let's think it through. Let's talk about it.
I guess I just don't think that all suffering is inherently bad like you do. Like, especially if the natural world, not even coming at it from like any sort of like religious or theological
it's not.
argument.
I'm not out here complaining about people having to go to the gym.
Not
right?
even that, but just we know that in the natural world, even from like early life, things have to reproduce and they have to consume, and that's you may think that it's a very grotesque and brutal and very you might think that's a brutal process.
Do you not?
And maybe even cruel, but
Do you not?
If existence itself is a byproduct of that, I don't inherently see how.
So why is existence more important than the safety of children?
Why is existence more important than the safety of children?
Yeah.
I think that it's.
So basically, as long as the species continues, that's all that matters, right? It's like blindly wanting the species to continue, no matter how much harm it causes.
It's not saying that you want harm to exist more than you
want people there
to exist to.
Yeah, it's not wanting harm to exist. It's not caring if it exists, right?
Let me ask you this: what have you been able to surmise come up with any sort of theory or a working model of this extinction plan?
Yeah.
Could you elaborate on how you would go about doing that?
Yeah, we grow the movement peacefully until we have enough people to take over the world and start running it ethically, which has to happen anyway, right? It's being run by criminals and warlords and billionaires and dictators. And then we start doing animal extinction while researching the most vast and thorough extinction possible.
Do you think that maybe even as a consequence of getting rid of every animal, how do you suppose?
If there's no animals to suffer,
I'll tell you, logically speaking, you're not wrong, but you have to be completely absent of like all ethics. And
this is having ethics, right? Being absent of ethics is to allow suffering and to think that it's fine to not care about it. So this is not the absence of ethics.
Well, it's not even saying that.
This is the conclusion of ethics. Mm-hmm. This is the pinnacle of ethics, right? Not the absence of it. This is saying no child should be tortured. We should protect them from that. That is ethics. What are you talking about?
Is there no other way to end suffering without also creating?
Like I said, I'm very happy to hear it out, to talk it through. If anybody has a suggestion or a proposal or a solution to end suffering without extinction, then I'm ready to hear it, right? But there isn't one.
Yeah, I think that I would just say that not all suffering is evil. we can end on this just because
But what about
you're clearly
extreme
more
suffering?
brilliant than I am.
Can you at least say that, yes, all extreme suffering is evil?
Extreme suffering, I would say, yeah. I would say that, especially when people can do something about it.
Yeah.
You know, I think the idea of allowing people to starve to death is wrong, especially when a whole other group of people have the means to combat that. I think that when there's a very easy route to justice and prevention for people abusing children, I think that we ought to do that. Why? Because children and people have inherent value, and especially children, because I think that they're the most innocent. They have yet to be corrupted by the world. They have yet to fall into, I would say, sin. I don't know what you would call it, but you know, so I think that there are plenty of solutions that would take. Sure, it would take a lot of effort. I think it would be righteous. It's a righteous cause to end suffering.
But how can you make suffering impossible without basically creating?
You can't make it impossible because, you know, if people are committing awful acts on these children,
do you think it's okay to force people to exist when they don't want to?
To force people to exist? I think that people have a right to their own life determination.
But,
I like it.
That,
it may hurt me.
You don't get that, right? Nobody gets that, right? Everyone's born into a life that they didn't ask for, didn't want. And, you know, for a child born into a pedophile's basement, they're not getting any sort of right to life determination.
Not in that moment, definitely not. You know,
let's not minimize it by saying not in that moment. Okay, it's
well, you're assuming they'll be in that basement forever.
An entire life of rape and torture is not just something to say. Well, not in that moment, right?
Well,
you're downplaying extreme torture, extreme suffering, right? You're minimizing it to.
No, I'm saying that the torture is bad. I'm saying that you're assuming that that person will be stuck in that situation for their entire life. If it's a hypothetical, then fair enough.
They very often are.
I would love to put a stop to that. You know,
but extinction is the only way to make it impossible, right?
But it would also it would take some level of committing, and it would require some suffering to put an end to that, because you're going to have to make the people that are committing those acts, you're going to have to make them suffer to some degree.
So is that suffering to end suffering worse than billions of years of more pointless suffering?
What do you think can you define pointless suffering?
Yeah, like, you know, when there's no reason for it, like an animal starving to death in nature. Like a child being raped to death, right? I would say that's pretty pointless, unless you're going to say, well, we have to consider the pleasure of the rapist.
No, of course not. I think, you know, I don't have much of an answer, I guess, to like an animal starving to death, but an animal eating another one causes one to suffer and another one to thrive. I don't think that's inherently evil.
Do you really, is it equal though? Is it a fair trade, right? Does being eaten alive really equate to the amount of benefit that, you know, the attacker gets, right?
Well, the attacker is...
So
the attacker survives, but it's an animal.
Basically, the life of a child is only worth a meal. It has the value of a meal.
I put more value on human life than I do animal life.
Right, but you know they suffer too, and they suffer worse than we do. Right, animals are being eaten alive. We're not.
Sure, but I'm a lot less concerned of that, unless you want to make like some vegan argument of that the mouse has as much value as a human being. And I would say that
they all have value, right? There's no need to discriminate like that.
There's some value in the sense of like, I don't want to see an animal being abused or hurt.
You're happy for it.
By a person.
Do you think it's worse for an animal to be abused by a person than by an animal?
I think when a human does it, it's an act of cruelty, because I believe human beings have a moral compass.
But is it worse?
I think it's worse to chop a cat up into pieces than it is to you know, shoot a deer for food.
Okay, but is it worse to chop up a cat than for the cat to be eaten alive by an animal?
It would be worse for a human being to chop one up. Is the end result the same?
Why?
Sure, but the animal's just trying to eat. It's the intent.
So how is it worse?
One is for sustenance, and one is for some cruel sense of pleasure.
Okay.
One is to self-aggrandize. One is to be cruel for cruelty's sake. One is I'm hungry.
So, you know, the immense suffering caused by a bit of hunger, that's better basically because the victim actually gets to sustain themselves.
Do you believe a bear is evil for eating the salmon?
No, they're not evil, right? They've been programmed by nature to do it, right? But essentially,
Is the person who attacked
bloodbath, right? We live in a bloodbath. Animals have to kill each other just to try and stay alive, and then they die anyway, right? There's no point defending this. You're defending literally hell, right? We are effectively in hell. Animals are being tortured. Children are being raped to death, and you're saying we shouldn't end this.
I think we can stop the suffering without,
How?
at least of children.
How?
How?
Yeah.
By being more cruel to the people perpetrators than.
But that doesn't stop it from happening, all right? Right? That just causes more suffering for the perpetrators.
I don't care about their suffering, to be honest with you.
Right, but you should care about the suffering of the victims as well. And
I do. So that's why I think
care
that
about it enough to make it impossible.
Well, that's why justice is a thing that.
Justice doesn't help a child that's been murdered, does it? Okay, so it's completely useless in that respect. So you should care about.
Well, it helps the child who's been not been murdered, but who's been abused.
Okay, so let's just forget about those that get murdered, right? That's the problem. Is that as soon as something doesn't fit into your system, it's well, forget them. What about the happy ones? But that mentality.
If the child was murdered and they no longer exist, isn't that kind of like what you want ultimately?
So child abuse and murder is okay, you think?
No, I don't. I'm saying that you think extinction is good. Therefore, why do you care if a child gets murdered?
Because
just
they
one
suffer.
step closer to your goal.
They suffer terribly, right? We would rather prevent
that. If we're all going to exterminate ourselves, are we not going to suffer?
Believe it or not, I would rather no child gets raped and murdered, right?
I agree. But how are we going to
the thing is, when you say you agree, you're not willing to make it happen, right? I am. So I don't think you actually fully agree. You partially agree.
But it sounds to me like your solution to people getting raped and murdered is to just murder all the animals, murder all the plants, and let the rest of it.
Not to murder them, but euthanize them. So that there's a difference between euthanasia and murder, right? If we supported just murdering animals, then you could torture them, you could do anything, right? But euthanasia doesn't allow for like cruelty, essentially.
How do you suppose you go about euthanizing people?
We don't know yet. Just however is necessary.
Bullet to the head.
Maybe, yeah, maybe.
A rope.
Probably not a rope. But the thing is, right? You're worried about, the suffering that the happy people will lose when they go extinct, right? But we shouldn't care about their happiness. We should care about their safety, right? Their safety is more important, right? So what's more important? Trying to be happy and then getting tortured, or being safe and not being tortured.
I just don't understand what good is in safety without any form of existence.
Because Nikki is like saying, well, what good is closing down hell if Satan can't get to rule over it and enjoy it? That's basically what you're saying. Why should we close hell? Satan is having a great time. Right?
I'm having a great time here.
But Nikki, it is effectively hell. Okay. In fact, I made a video about how Earth is even worse than hell. Right. So in hell, animals don't get tortured. On Earth, animals do get tortured. Right. In hell, innocent people don't get tortured. On Earth, innocent people do get tortured. In hell, children don't go to hell. But on Earth, children are getting raped to death and tortured, right? So Earth is actually worse than hell. But in terms of just to think about it, to simplify the thinking, yeah, Earth is effectively hell. The universe is effectively hell. And yet, over 99% of life here will be tortured horrifically. And to say that we shouldn't close this down because, 0.0000001% of the population is having a good time is fucking ridiculous.
I'm curious. Yeah, I'm a bit lost.
Okay, Nikki, it's been great talking to you, and I really appreciated the conversation. It's been probably one of the best debates this week or so. So it's been great, and you know what? We will have Nikki on again. And again, thank you for coming up. Thank you for the good conversation. But I do think we should move on now. I think we've kind of reached the end of it. And like you said, you've got a lot to think about, to go away and have a think about it. So read our website, watch some of my videos maybe. The links to everything is on my profile. So we have the link to the website with our manifesto, our FAQ. I also have the link to the Discord, so you can join our Discord server. You can also join our WhatsApp group. You can continue the conversation with us there as well. So we have hundreds of people on Discord. We have about 100 activists as well. So you can come and talk to our activists. You can come and talk to the person that created the movement. I didn't make the movement, but you can come and talk to him if you really want. And you can talk to all of the other activists as well. You can ask us questions. You can come and debate with us on Discord. So for everyone interested in debating on Discord, if you join our Discord, when you're writing the application to join it, just tell us, I want to debate, and we'll let you in. Okay, let's see if we've got anyone else in the queue. Yeah, we've got lots of people. Let's try and bring them up. Thank you, Portland. See you later. Right, we've got 3 people in the queue, so I'm going to bring all of them up in case any of them join. Okay, we've got Lawrence in the queue. Lawrence, let's get you on. No? Okay, not happening. Right, well, in that case, the queue is now empty. So if anybody wants another debate, discussion, if you have a question, even if it's just one question, come up and let's hear it, and I'll try to answer it for you. Okay, Christian is coming up. Let's get them on. Hello, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
I guess I agree with you, to be honest, because but by default, if you're alive, you're guaranteed to suffer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I watch all your videos. Honestly, I guess in ways I kind of disagree because there are lots of great things in life, but at the same time, there's lots of horrible suffering in the life by default. So it's I 90% agree with you, to be honest.
Fair.
So
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming up.
Yeah.
I'm just trying some background. Yeah, well, thank you for coming up again, and consider joining our community. Join the Discord. Come and talk to the rest of us there. For everyone that's interested in extinctionism and the end of all suffering, ethics, morality, philosophy, logic, and all of that good stuff, come and join the community for extinction on Discord, right? It's the best place to be. And if you are already on our Discord, then pipe up, right? Talk more. The more conversations, the better. Hello, how are you doing?
Hi, nice to meet you. Sorry if my English is not perfect, but I understand more than can I speak.
Okay.
Okay, I am really agree with your explanation. I only have some questions.
Okay.
In my head, what will the method be for human extinction? What is the proposed?
Euthanasia.
Okay, legal euthanasia, right?
Well, it won't be optional, so it will be done whether or not you want it.
Okay, I am totally agree with that. And I have other question. This decision is always be free for people want to be participate in, right? No, don't push it or force it anyone, right?
No. So extinction will be forced onto everyone, basically. Because the thing is, if you make extinction optional, then there will be no extinction. And if you make euthanasia optional, then people will be too scared to do it, and they will suffer terribly as a result.
Yeah, I understand that. I am human with. I like human rights, and I think is a little difficult in my head pushing someone to do something that then they don't want it. But I
Well, yeah,
understand people
but
don't
animals are the
understand.
same. It's the same for animals if you think about it, right?
Yeah,
So
we are
when
animals too, right?
yeah, and when we do animal extinction with euthanasia, they might run away from us, right? They might be scared, but it's going to be the same with humans.
My only ethic problem in my head is we maybe became to the evil if forced someone else. It's only my problem in my head with all the proposed.
Yeah, the thing is that people cannot consent to the danger in this world, right? That people are not capable of thinking properly about the danger. So if you
Yeah.
say, "Do you want to go extinct to not be in danger?" They're going to say no because they don't understand the danger. They don't understand the need for extinction in the same way that an animal wouldn't. It would have no idea what you're talking about, right? Humans are the exact same.
Okay. My other question is if all suffering disappear, who I'm sorry, I hate my English to speak. How can enjoy that result because anyone exists? In my head is like I am nihilist, right? And atheist too. And how can enjoy something if anyone exists to contemplate?
We don't need to enjoy non-existence. So think of it as like Earth. The universe is hell, right? So you don't want anyone to still be in hell, right? You want to close down hell, shut it down, make sure nobody is in hell.
Yeah, definitely right with your argument. I agree. And my last question is obviously times horribles is continually. I hate the notice every day news. Sorry, every day here kill somebody else, children rapes. All your arguments is so strong and powerful, and I think maybe the argument for that, my other question, AI is like a continuous list of us and don't suffer and exist? Or what do you think about the AI?
Yeah. So ChatGPT does not suffer, right? It doesn't. It's not alive. But in the future, maybe we'll have to be careful to make sure that the AI doesn't suffer, doesn't live. But even if that's not possible, and the AI has to be alive, right? If the AI has to have a brain, then it's going to still be suffering less than those that it helps, right? So an AI is not going to get diseases. It's not going to get eaten alive. It's going to be big and strong, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Going to be able to help those who can't help themselves.
Yeah. And my last question, sorry for the time. If you have any personal reason, I don't know what make you do think that this way.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I like to think that my personal life didn't have an effect, but it's hard to say that for sure because I have had a lot of extreme suffering in my life. So I know that life is bad. I know that it's terrible. I've been tortured terribly, right? So, I've begged for death like hundreds of times in my life. So I know that life is a bad thing. So maybe that makes a difference. But I would like to think that it comes down to rationality because the thing is that if extreme suffering created activists for extinction, then there'd be fucking loads of them. They'd be everywhere. So unfortunately, suffering terribly does not make you more likely to be an activist for extinction. Because if it did, there'd be activists everywhere,
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much for the time, and nice to meet you too.
Okay, thank you, Atea. Muchas gracias. I'm getting your Spanish, right?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, adios. Let's give her a seguir, a follow. All right, 3DS coming on next. Quite a few people in the queue coming up. Let's continue on with the mission for extinction. 3DS, hola. Hello. Okay, 3DS. Thank you for the music. Moving on, we've got more people. Let's get to the next person. AX1158. Hello.
What's up, bro?
Yeah, how's it going? Do you have any
All
questions?
good. Yeah. I think I mostly agree with like the implication that you're making, but I think there's a dilemma in like the overall logic.
Okay.
'Cause I think it neglects the concept of autonomy.
But do you think autonomy is more important than safety?
It depends.
On
The
what?
reason why I say this is because if there were only one person on Earth, would you still say that that person ought to, you know,
Yeah.
die? But the suffering that would be caused to them is something that they would accept on themselves.
Right, but they can't actually consent to that.
Why not?
Because people are not able to think properly about their own safety and the danger that they're in. So people don't realize how much danger they're in, and they're not actually capable of thinking about it properly because they've specifically been prevented from doing so by evolution so that they would keep living and reproducing and causing harm.
Yeah, but danger. Well, I said. Well, you heard me say that. I guess only one person on Earth, right?
There should be nobody, right?
No. I'm saying in the case where there's only one person on Earth.
Yeah, they can suffer terribly, so they should be made safe.
Yeah, but them suffering terribly would be their choice, as
Right.
far as like
Yeah.
whether they choose to endure it.
That's what I'm trying to explain to you, is that they cannot make that choice, right? In the same way that an animal cannot consent to existing in this world because they don't understand the world, humans can't either.
They can't make the advent of the choice, but like as far as
They can't, look,
existing
they
after
can say, yeah, I want to live, okay, but
Yeah.
they can't make an informed decision.
as far as like being spawned into the Earth, yes, that's true. But they can make an informed decision as to
No.
they can
No.
weigh the cost and the benefits of living.
No, they can't. That's
after
what I'm trying to say, is that they can't do that.
Why not?
Because they've evolved to be incapable of doing that. So most humans don't realize that they're in danger of suffering.
Well, danger is different than suffering. Suffering is subjective. If a person doesn't feel like they're suffering, then how are they suffering?
Well, regardless of that, most people don't realize that they're in danger of extreme suffering. Okay, so they really can't consent. They have no idea, and they're not actually able to think about it properly. So when you say that they can weigh it up, no, they've literally evolved to not be able to think about it properly.
Well, I don't think you can disregard what I just said, though, because I think
Which is what?
it's. I'll repeat it. That it's danger and suffering are completely different,
How?
right?
What significant difference is there in relation to this topic?
Well, because danger is relative. Like a person, for example, could like, driving 100 miles per hour.
Yeah, I
You
get what
say in retrospect
I
that's
get what you're
dangerous.
saying, but that's irrelevant because humans are not able to think about this properly, right? The thought process that they would have to do is literally blocked off to them, right? So they are specifically prevented from thinking about this.
Thinking about danger.
Yeah. And from being fully, from thinking through fully the danger that they're in.
Right, but regardless of whether there's, full danger or halfway danger.
Regardless. What do you
the
mean
concept of-
regardless? Why should we disregard extreme danger?
Because a person might not internalize that danger and
So
let it cause.
you're basically proving my points, right? You're proving that humans cannot think about safety responsibly because you're doing it right now. You're saying, let them suffer. You're saying,
Yeah.
well, yeah, they can't understand the danger they're in, so just let them be in danger. That's
I didn't say no. There's a difference between me saying let
completely
them suffer.
irresponsible.
No. There's a difference between me saying let them suffer versus let them be in danger. If a person wants to accept the fact that they can't control every aspect of what danger will imply in their life, and they say, okay, I'm cool with this, and I decide that I want to live my life
So
as
you're
long as it's
making
not
this
providing
about the
suffering,
privileged ones.
I think that's their choice.
You're making this about the privileged ones, basically.
Well, it would be.
You're proving my point, right? You're proving that people are incapable of considering the extreme suffering and the danger that they're in, right? So you're not
danger, but not suffering.
You're not capable of thinking about it properly, as you're proving, and most people are also incapable of thinking about it.
Well, I said danger, not suffering. Everybody knows whether they're suffering or not.
Yeah. Okay. But you're still proving that you're happy for that danger to continue.
No, I'm happy for the person to have autonomy, whether they can choose whether they want to suffer or not.
So do you think they're capable of fully understanding all of the danger that they're in?
No, of course not.
Okay, so why should we allow them to agree to it when they obviously can't understand it?
Because they want to.
So if a child wants to, jump off a cliff, would you allow them because they want to?
I don't know. I was talking about a specific scenario where there's only one person on Earth.
Oh wow, that's really irrelevant, though.
It is though. Well, I can explain how it's relevant if you.
No, so you just dodged the question and changed subject.
No. That's why I started off by saying that I agree with what you're saying primarily.
So let's do a debrief, okay? So that's exactly what happened, right? I said, so if we should only respect what they want, then you would allow a child to just walk into a pedophile's basement, basically.
No, because there wouldn't be any pedophile. It would just be them.
In your hypothetical instead of mine.
Well, yeah, the implication of what you're saying, yes.
So if the danger is natural instead of a person, then it's better, you think?
I mean, it would depend on if they were suffering or not.
No, I'm asking exactly. It depends, right? So it doesn't matter if it's a person or if it's nature that causes the suffering, right? And people cannot consent to that, so we should.
No, it depends on if they're suffering now, not the cause of the suffering. So I'm talking about a subjective experience.
But okay, so let's try and get back on track. You were saying we should always allow people to do what they want, right?
No. I was saying that autonomy on a foundational level would override, overall or mass extinction.
Autonomy is more important than safety, basically.
No, on a foundational level, yeah.
Why?
Because if there was only one person on Earth, I don't think that you have the right to say that they.
But the thing is, we don't have just one person on Earth, right? I feel like we should try and debate reality instead of some.
Well, we have 8 billion people on Earth instead of 0. So I mean, what's your point with that?
I'm really not following, right? Because you've made this confusing.
Well, you just said that we don't have one person on Earth, but we also don't have 0 people on Earth, right? It's a hypothetical.
Okay. All right. Well, you know what? Thanks for coming up. It's been great anyway. It just seems like you were kind of circling the drain for arguments there. Couldn't quite find one. So we're going to move on to somebody else. Let's see if we got some fresh arguments. Unfortunately, that is kind of often what happens. People kind of come on, they have a couple of arguments, and then they're kind of like, what else have I got? And it's like, okay, let's move on. All right, let's get our next guest on. Yes, you can talk about pro-extinction. Let's get you on. Loading them in. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. Do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. So for your pro-extinction, how do you plan to do it? Who do you start with? Or do you just plan on doing everyone all at once?
So it's not as easy to do everyone all at once, right? So we would probably start with animals, and essentially, we would only move on to humans when we didn't need them anymore, right? In relation to working towards the best extinction, which is the most vast and thorough, the most preventative, the most thorough, and the most vast extinction, right? So in terms of just who are you going to start with, it doesn't really work like that. We have to do activism to take over the world, start running it ethically, which needs to happen anyway. Then we start with animals and their extinction, and then we start researching scientifically what is the most vast and thorough extinction that we can do, what's the most vast and thorough physically possible, essentially, and then we carry it out. And we might be able to pass that job on to AI and robots. If it takes thousands of years to work towards the best extinction, maybe we can just go extinct and we can leave that to robots. And if we do, then humanity will just be made extinct with euthanasia. We'll put them to sleep. And you can't make it optional because people will be too afraid to do it, right? And you'll also have people that don't want to do it, and then they'll suffer terribly as a result, or they'll reproduce and cause more suffering for billions of more years. So you can't make it optional. You can't use sterilization. That doesn't protect the current generation. It only protects the next generation. So you just have to do euthanasia as fast as you can, basically, to provide safety as fast as you can.
That's actually amazing. But my question here is, why would you do the animals as well as humans? Because I'm thinking humans are more, terrible. I think they deserve extinction more than animals do.
It's not that humans deserve
I'm
extinction.
wondering.
So humans deserve extinction not because they're horrible, but because they deserve safety, right? Because they're living beings and we should care for them. So it's the same with animals. Extinction isn't to punish them. It's actually to make them safe. It's because we love them and because we're compassionate. So extinction isn't about hatred or anger. It's about ethics, responsibility, and compassion and love and safety, and making sure that life doesn't exist in the worst conditions possible, but only exists if there's safety, which there isn't, right? It's impossible for life to be safe in this world. So only extinction can make them safe. And yeah, animals suffer terribly as well, right? So why wouldn't we help the animals? And look, if we don't do animal extinction, they'll suffer for billions of years, and they'll probably evolve back into humans and suffer again like that as well. So it just doesn't make sense to try and rush the extinction or to discriminate with extinction. The only fair thing to do is the most vast and thorough extinction possible, the best extinction and the most fair extinction.
That's actually beautiful. Thank you so much. I definitely agree with you on all of that. You have my vote for the extinction. If you need any help on, extinction, I'm 100% there for it. I'm here. But one last thing I want to say before I go is you are definitely pro-extinction Paul McCartney.
You know what? My dad says I look like Paul McCartney all the time.
And he's right, actually.
Well, thank you very much. You should join our Discord, join our WhatsApp group, become an activist, right? Yeah, we do need help with extinction. We need help with activism to grow the movement to make extinction possible, right? It's not about waiting for it or hoping for it. That's never going to happen. We have to take action and make it happen, right? So it's not, let's hope for an asteroid. It's let's grow a movement and provide safety for everyone. That's it, right? This isn't a joke. It's not philosophy. Safety is urgently required, and we have to provide it, right? Until we provide that safety, children and animals will continue to be tortured horrifically, eaten alive, right? Trapped into lives of extreme hell. So we have to provide safety for them, and we have to get people together who are going to agree to help those children, help those animals, and help make it happen. So that's what we're doing. That's what this stream is about, my channel. That's what I'm doing. I'm an activist. The movement started, the pro-extinction movement started 4 years ago, and I joined 1 year ago when I was invited. When I was invited to the movement, I almost immediately basically said, how can I help, right? As soon as they said, we're trying to end all suffering, I was like, oh my God, this is what I've been waiting for, right? This is what I've been looking for. So extinctionism is for people that want to do the best thing possible for the world, right? Because we care about others as well as ourselves. We want the best world for everyone, right? And so the most important thing is a world where nobody is being tortured, right? Where everybody is safe. Okay, let's join up some people from the queue. I'm going to join up 3 or 4 until we get one. Hello, how you doing?
Hello. So I have a question.
Okay.
You said all the creatures are born to suffer, right? But I think suffering is kind of term made by humans only. Yeah, all the
It
animals,
existed before
especially
humans.
the mammals, do feel pain, but that was never labeled as pain. You know,
Well, yeah,
suffering
yeah. I mean,
before
they didn't have language.
humans came into this
Yeah,
world.
animals didn't
Like
have language.
before we
So,
came into this world, like their suffering, them feeling pain was not really, you know.
so you think
And
that as soon as humanity came into the world, animals started feeling pain more for
no,
some
no.
magical reason?
I mean, suffering is made by humans. It is
No,
not
animals suffer
really
as well.
true
Animals
for
suffer.
every organism. There
Animals.
is animals that does not feel
Yeah,
pain.
hang on.
That
You're doing a bit of this at the minute, and like, just close it, close it, close it. Let's. Shh, 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 shh. So animals do suffer terribly, and if you disagree with that, then you're basically a supporter of animal abuse, right? That's not okay. That's not acceptable. Animals suffer terribly. They get abused terribly. And to say, just allow all animal abuse because maybe they don't feel it properly, that's like the most irresponsible position you could possibly have. Someone saying nature slave. Yeah, that's a term that I came up with. Basically, it's people that are enslaved by nature into doing nature's job for them, right? Defending nature. So even though nature is just out there torturing animals and doing basically nothing else, right? Literally just torturing animals, people have been programmed by nature to support nature for no apparent reason. And so, yeah, we call them nature slaves, right? Because they are literally, right? This is not an exaggeration. They are literally enslaved by nature. Ends nature, literally. Hello, how you doing?
Yo, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I have a question. How can you be so sure that suffering ends after death?
Well, we're not sure, but there's no evidence to think there is, so we don't believe in it.
So you're just hoping that you're
No,
just
it's not about hoping.
safe.
It's just the sensible way to live life, right? In the same way that I'm not worried about the flying spaghetti monster, I'm not worried about anything else that there's no evidence for.
I mean, all right. If you believe that, then I mean, I can't really prove that there is also like torture after life. So it's kind of like.
But the thing is, right, if we're just sending souls to hell to be tortured, then we should shut down the soul factory with extinction.
I mean, I guess I kind of get the point, but.
Look, if there's no life, there's no reincarnation, none of that bullshit, basically, and no new souls being sent to hell. Look, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in an afterlife. I don't believe in heaven and hell. And our movement is specifically atheist as well. We do not allow religious people into the movement, right? If you're religious and you're in the movement, you will be banned 100%. Because essentially they are irrational. They don't think properly. They literally say, well, we should allow that child abuser to have a kid because maybe the soul of that child is in hell right now and it gets to come into earth, for a temporary time, gets raped by the abuser, but it's not as bad as the hell, and then they go back to hell after the abuser murders them. That's the craziness going on in these people's minds. Hello, how you doing? Yes, loud and clear. Do you have any questions?
Okay. Yeah, I have one question. It was just something you said to the other guy was like along the lines of like, okay, some of these humans that think about suffering, you think they're kind of like irrational and incapable of like thinking for themselves of like what the dangers and stuff. And like I just like the only question that I don't really get is if you consider these people incapable, what is it that's different about you and your movement that considers you capable? Like what's this criteria for capability and why do you have it?
Yeah, so essentially, yeah, we're using a differentiation. We're saying we're calling them humanity 1.0 and we are the 2.0. And the reason for that is that essentially there is a massive difference in the level of rationality. right? So, and that largely revolves around the ability to understand suffering and to have empathy for suffering. And this is all to do with essentially evolution has made us incapable of thinking about suffering properly, so that we will ignore it and allow it and accept it. Because otherwise, life just wouldn't exist, basically. Nobody
Yeah,
would
so
want to live,
sorry.
nobody would be having kids.
Yeah, so I guess I'm saying like, don't you feel like that some people have like a good knowledge of suffering? Like there could be some philosophers who like really understand this term but could disagree with you still. Like what makes them still like what would you consider this rationality? Because all humans have rational nature, but why is it that your rationality, in your opinion, is more important than theirs, I guess?
Yeah. So
Even if they're both educated.
yeah. So essentially, humanity evolved to be irrational on purpose. Okay, it wasn't a mistake. It's not that we're just getting more and more rational. That's actually a myth. So it's actually that humanity is specifically kept irrational by nature and by the structures in the brain. And so extinctionists are people that have mutated to have less of that and potentially to be completely free of it as well. So essentially to evolve out of your natural programming to become more than just an animal, right? So most people are essentially still just animals and they're trapped in that animalistic nature, and they haven't managed to evolve out of it. So that's the difference. And again, a large part of that difference is understanding suffering and the ability to understand it. But it's more about rationality. So logical consistency, coherency, intelligence, essentially. The less intelligent humans are, the better, essentially, for reproduction. So that's why there is an evolutionary effort towards suppression of intelligence.
Yeah.
And we have effectively mutated to have less of that suppression and a higher level of intelligence as a result.
Yeah, so I guess I do understand like the point you're making. It's about like evolution and how humans kind of naturally evolve to like, want to live and stuff. And like I guess this movement, I think this movement doesn't. But how would you say that that's a measure of intelligence? Because I could say that like some of the most intelligent people in the world, they're still rational, and you're still rational too. Like we're all rational beings, and I feel like that's what makes this part of the
humans are irrational, basically. That's the problem.
We have I'm sorry. Maybe I worded that wrong. But like we all have like a rational nature. We have the capability for rationality, and that's what makes us human.
Yeah.
So how do you kind of like, because you go against it, but you're using your rationality to go against the normal belief?
Humans have partial rationality, so they can be rational when it doesn't conflict with their programming, essentially. So they can say, yeah, 1 + 1 = 2, 2 + 2 = 4. But as soon as you say like child abuse is bad for you, they'll be like, no, child abuse is good for you, which is completely insane, right? So it really is when you ask them on certain topics that they get even more irrational specifically. But humans are irrational by nature, and they are essentially trapped into a trap of irrationality that they can't get out of. And so they are predominantly irrational, right? They have a small amount of rationality, but it's mostly irrationality. In fact, the entire human culture, the entire human world is just pure irrationality, essentially, if you actually look into it.
Yeah, I guess that answers my question. And I guess, like, I don't know if I'm, like, wording myself correct here, but, like, I guess the point I'm trying to raise is that because we're humans, we have rationality in the sense that, like, even if you think we're irrational or rational, to be either of those things, we need the human rationality, like, the level that our mind has is above, like, any other species. So just because you think that somebody's being rational or irrational, in this circumstance, I see how you see it, but, like, you could say that to any circumstance. Why would you side with one side or the other? Like, maybe I'm wording it wrong.
Yeah, the thing is, you can actually measure it, you can determine it, and you can observe it. So, yeah, rationality can actually be defined, it can be measured, and so we can prove, yeah, oh, look, that person is being irrational. And here's the proof, right? You can give logical proof, essentially. So when you say that everyone else is rational, they're actually not, right? They're living in a bubble of partial rationality where they can say, yeah, 1 + 1 = 2. But when it gets to like bigger things and things that go against their animalistic nature, which is like the small bubble, then they do become irrational, right? So their mind makes them irrational when they try to think about things which go against their animalistic nature. This is a whole massive system in the brain that's responsible for this, and it's a massive field of psychology and neuroscience.
Would you say that it's kind of like the people that are going against what like evolution and human nature has taught us to think that makes them more rational? Because like I feel like you can't really apply that to everything. I mean, like I feel like evolution made us think that murder is bad, right? But then if I come out here and I say that I don't think murder is bad and I think it's really good, would that make me more rational just because I disagree with it?
So, look, most humans are just irrational. They just kind of live, wafting from thing to thing, right? They're too busy at work to think about anything properly. So they're essentially not. They're trying not to think their whole life, right? They're trying not to think, and that's why they're so irrational as well, because they don't like thinking. And so, if you're going to be more rational with that claim that you said, then you have to be able to back it up, and you'd have to be able to defend it. So I can defend my position, our activists can defend their positions, but pro-lifers, most humans cannot defend their positions in favor of suffering. And if you grill them on it, they will become irrational, and you can prove it, right? You can say, look, he said child abuse is good for you. He said, no child ever suffers. They'll say things where it's like, well, that proves insanity, basically. So we can absolutely do that, and everyone is welcome to try and do it on me, but no one's been able to, show that I'm being irrational, basically. But I've been able to show that everyone else that I've debated is irrational. It's not hard. It's very easy.
Yeah. So do you think like the answer to my question about like the murder thing, like if I was like against like the general population and I said like, okay, I think murder is good, do you think if I could defend that claim, I would suddenly become more rational than them, and then just because I could defend it, would that give me the permission to kind of put my views above like everybody else's just because I could defend mine? Because I feel like what I'm trying to say is even if I could defend my claim, I feel like we can apply it to a lot of things. Like anybody can defend a claim, right? But that doesn't make their claim the moral truth. That doesn't put like just because you can defend it, the other side could probably defend it.
You can't. So a lot of people ask this question, like, should we allow people to do whatever they want, whatever they believe in, right? It doesn't make me more rational, so why should I do X, Y, and Z? But the thing, that's not how it works. That's not the way the world works. You can't control people trying to do what they believe in. So you can't say, well, just because I think I'm more rational, does that mean that I should, do extinction or take action or whatever? And the answer is potentially, yeah. You have to make that decision yourself. So,
but wouldn't you say that like our laws and our systems are kind of designed on this like system of kind of like an objective morality that we follow just to keep society like functioning in order, and that's kind of how we stop it, right?
I mean, I would say that society is very unethical, right? Over 99% of people are happy for animals to be exploited and tortured, right? For like no reason, basically. So you can't really say that there's anything ethical or moral about humanity whatsoever.
I guess like I wasn't really trying to make that claim. I guess I was maybe I'm like wording myself wrong. But I guess I'm trying to make the claim like even if like what you were saying, like if I think murder is wrong and I can defend it, nobody can really put their opinions above mine, and I should kind of have the right to do it. But I feel like you could apply that logic to anything. But if we all like in society, not even just your movement, right? If everybody followed this logic and then everybody said like, okay, I don't know if I can say this stuff, but like essay and stuff, if somebody said that's good and they started doing it and then they did this with like every single crime, right? Just because they believed it was moral and they could try and defend it in their own way, wouldn't it just turn society like really, really bad if everybody took this kind of view?
Yeah, but everyone's not going to take that point of view.
But then why is it okay if you do it and not if other people do it? Like if other people in a different, I don't know, ideology kind of take the same standpoint that I'm more rational because I think differently to evolution and I can kind of defend my view, how would you say that you're okay to do it but they're not okay to do it?
Well, because I guess, well, they're not doing it, are they? So yeah.
Do you think if they like started doing it, would you then support that too? Because if you do support your movement, I feel like you have to be consistent in the sense that if somebody's doing the exact same thing as you for another movement, by your logic of rationality, you'd have to support that too, right?
It depends on whatever's necessary for ending suffering, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it's a good question. But effectively, you have to do what you believe is right, essentially. And we can't control other people and what they're going to do. So when you're saying, should we have a rule like this, it's actually not a valid question, because effectively you're engaging in analysis paralysis, right? You're saying nobody should be able to do anything ever, right?
I'm engaging in what, sorry?
Analysis paralysis.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, it's when you effectively get paralyzed by analysis, right? Where you end up in a situation where you can't take any action ever.
I don't think our society runs like that. I feel like our society just runs in a way that we kind of have
But
this.
you're saying, you know, how can we try and do something, right? You're saying paralysis.
No. I wasn't trying to say like how can you do something. I was just going to say that by your definition of rationality and you going against it and like defending your claim and everything, that if other groups tried to do this, why wouldn't you be able to? Why wouldn't you have that same stance for them? Like, because they're effectively doing the same thing that you're doing. And
What stance?
like, because you support your movement, wouldn't you support every other movement who did this just on their own?
Why would I waste my time thinking about them?
I guess I'm just asking, like, if it did happen. You don't have to, but like,
If what happened?
Because of your sense of rationality, you're like,
If what happened? What are you referring to?
because, well, maybe I'm explaining it.
I'm asking what, not because, not why. What?
Oh, I don't think there's like I can't name any on the top of my head, but if people started doing this for other movements and started going against like human nature and like this human evolution thing and going against like the majority and going against like objective morality and stuff, like would you, if they could defend it and stuff?
You think animal exploitation is objective morality?
Animal exploitation?
So you've said that you think that human society is objectively moral, right?
I think no. I think I kind of it's hard to explain. I don't agree with it, but I think that society runs like that just to stop like chaos and disorder. I think it's kind of what we have to do.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean it's a good thing.
I think it is a good thing because if we didn't have it, then we'd have like a lot of chaos and disorder. Because if we couldn't,
Right,
like,
but I mean, like, no, you know, total extinction would be better.
I guess that's your stance. Thank you for answering my question, though.
All right, thank you for coming up. You know what? We've actually had some good conversations today, and you know, we should appreciate the conversations as well, especially when they're not a complete train wreck, right? When it's a train wreck, then you know, let's take a break and try and forget about it. But it's good to appreciate good conversations, challenging conversations, and yeah, even if you know there's times when I'm getting frustrated or something. It's still good. Like, challenge me, give me difficult questions. Yeah, and you know what? If I get a little bit frustrated, okay, maybe it's a good thing sometimes, right? If I'm being challenged to think deeper. So yeah, keep it going. All right. So people are asking, how do I join the movement? Go on my profile on TikTok. Go on the link and join our Discord. Check out our website. Read the FAQ, the manifesto. But you can find our Discord by Google searching Abolish Suffering Discord, or you can go on my profile on TikTok and find the link to the Discord there. Mile, hello, how are you doing?
Hello. I'm not here to debate with you. I just wanted to say, when I stumbled upon your content, I used to be a Christian, and you low-key like opened my eyes. Now I'm an atheist. I'm pro-extinction. I've talked to like lots of my friends about like extinction, like with my girlfriend as well. And like, I know you don't know me, but you kind of had like a big impact on my life. And I just wanted to say like, keep going. Let's do extinction. And I love the content, bro.
Thank you, Mile. Yeah, awesome. Thank you for the support. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I've had quite a lot of support off of people over the last few days. It's been nice. You know, people coming up and saying, yeah, we support extinction. Extinction now, absolutely. Yeah, I do find it very encouraging, and yeah, it helps. Hello, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, thank you.
So yeah, I agree with you. What I wanted to ask is, you know, so you're talking about extinction on Earth, but you know, logically there are
No, I never said Earth. So we support the most vast and thorough extinction possible, which could well extend beyond Earth.
Right, yeah, theoretically, but yeah, I guess I'm just talking about the realistic way to go about it. Like, if we prioritize extinction on Earth, maybe you're not, I don't know, but if we prioritize extinction on Earth, then we can no longer work towards extinction on other planets. If we prioritize
extinction is the priority. The universe is the priority.
Oops, sorry, what was that?
Yeah, the universe is the priority, not Earth.
Okay, so would we put off if we had the ability to,
Yeah.
we
Yes.
would put it off for the universe.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I mean, just realistically speaking, put extinction across the entire universe is an immense, like almost, realistically almost unachievable, unimaginable
It's
goal.
not about just trying and trying and trying forever. We just have to scientifically determine what the most vast and thorough extinction is and go for it.
Okay.
So
And if
basically, we just do the best extinction we can.
I see. Yeah, I guess that's where it kind of becomes difficult for me, because if we leave out 99.9%
Let me solve
of
your
the
problem. Let me solve your problem. Look, we might be able to pass the job on to AI and robots, right? They can do the universe for billions of more years, and we can just go to sleep and forget about it, right? So we might be able to do that. But even if for some reason we can't rely on AI and robots, humanity continuing to do universe-wide extinction is still the right thing to do, right? If we have to continue for millions of years in order to prevent billions of years of suffering, then it is the right thing to do, and we will have the best conditions, and we will be helping life in the worst conditions, right? So we should be happy to, stay in our ivory towers to help those who are being tortured.
I agree, yeah. I just think realistically that's impossible.
Why?
Because we can't even see outside of the observable universe, let alone reach it.
Well, you see, we're not saying that we should do the impossible. We're saying we should only do what is possible.
Right. So that brings me back to my conundrum, is that if what is possible, I think realistically, you would be leaving, I don't know, 99+% of life out there, unextincted, if that's not a term. I think that's a reasonable.
We should just do as much as we can, right?
Yeah, I know. That's where
you can't do more than your best, right? So we should just do our best.
Right, and I agree. I'm in complete agreement with that. I just think that realistically, that's going to end up with maybe at most 1% of all life extinct, and the rest still going, which is a little bit depressing.
But if that's the best we can do, then that's it.
Yeah, it just seems a little.
What's the alternative?
What's
the alternative?
You're right. Yeah, there is no alternative. But it's a very depressing reality, I think.
Yeah. We live in the worst possible world, basically. Thank you for coming on. But yeah, it's a depressing reality that we live in. We effectively live in hell, and most people have not realized this yet, right? Most people are in hell and haven't realized it. Their extreme torture and suffering hasn't begun yet. The demons are getting round to it. But most people have not realized that they're probably going to have a terrible life. They're probably going to suffer awfully. They're probably going to get like dementia and beg for death, but be denied and, be trapped in a care home for like 10 years, just suffering terribly, begging for death. No euthanasia will be coming. You'll be trapped there suffering forever. Right? It happened to my grandmother. I saw it. It happens every day. And so, yeah, I can absolutely say a lot of people are going to end up in a care home or on their deathbed with dementia or some cancer or some bullshit. And guess what? They're going to be in so much pain for so many years, such terrible pain, that they're going to regret even being born, right? To where their entire life wasn't even worth it, right? That absolutely happens. It does, right? You can have a boring life and then be tortured for the next 20 years when you're an old person, right? It absolutely happens. So most people have not realized that that is about to happen to them. They're still walking through life like, everything's cool and good, right? Right? No, I'm afraid not. You're living in the worst possible world. Unfortunately, you're actually in hell. Sorry to tell you. But yeah, let's shut down hell, close it down with total extinction. That's the only right thing to do. Unfortunately, again, over 99% of life will literally be tortured to death as a baby. So if that's not hell, I don't know what the fuck is, okay? So you have like the tiny minority of like 0.0000001% of the population on this planet, which is happy humans, right? And so they're basically the demons running hell, right? They're basically Satan saying, ha ha ha, close down hell. What about my pleasure? Ha 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 ha. I mean, it's not far off, right? It's basically the same thing that humans are saying, right? You know, it's a theatrical demonstration, but is it really an exaggeration, right? Is it, right? You have a tiny minority enjoying all of the cruelty, over 99% of the world being tortured, tiny minority ruling over it, you know, enjoying the dead bodies of the people and animals that they've tortured to death. Oh yes, I'll have some more of that tortured flesh, thank you. End suffering. Why should we end all suffering? Oh, that child's body is delicious. End all suffering. Don't be silly. Right, that's what we're dealing with. Okay, that is the reality, the truth. That is the true version of the world. Right? I'm sorry to tell you this. I'm sorry to break your illusion that we're living in a good world, but we are surrounded by monsters who are torturing animals and children, right? We are living in hell. We are living in the worst world possible. We are living in a world where over 99% of life around us is being tortured horrifically. And if you don't think that's hell, then you're just selfish as hell, basically, right? If you don't think 99% of the population being tortured to death is unacceptable, then guess what? You're a monster, right? You are a complete monster. But guess what as well? If you think one victim to being tortured is okay, you're still a monster, right? So no amount of suffering is acceptable. It has to be zero, completely zero. For most people, they're saying bullshit like, oh, you know what? Just reduce the suffering a little bit, then it'll be fine. So they basically for these people that say reduce the suffering and then it'll be fine, it's like, oh, you know what? The screams of those animals who are being tortured, it's too loud for me, right? Let's have a little bit less of that. Bring the volume down just to where it's not too loud, right? Bring the screams down to just, okay, now that's better, right? The screams are a bit quieter now. Now it's okay. Now that's basically their mentality. And, you know, they would basically support a world where, you know, so right now, most of the world is being tortured, but they would still be they're happy with that, right? But would we be happy with one person, one animal being tortured so that the world can be happy? 10 billion people are happy, one person being tortured? No, right? So they're happy with literally billions of being tortured for one person to be happy, right? The most selfish you can possibly be, essentially. Whereas we wouldn't be happy with, you know, billions of people being happy if only one person is being tortured. No, we would still do extinction. We would help that person because we know that happiness is worth zero, right? Life does not need to exist. Nobody needs to be happy. Nobody has to be alive. And we should be willing to give up our lives to provide safety for others, right? So I don't think a child should be tortured for their entire life so that I can get to have a life. And I don't think anyone should be tortured so that anyone else can have a life either, right? And the thing is, you know, it's not just a bit of suffering or a little bit of suffering here and there. If we allow suffering, like people are doing, then you're allowing the worst suffering possible, right? You're allowing the most violent pedophile in the world to do the worst torture possible to the most innocent children possible, right? You're saying, okay, here's a blank check, right? Here's a kid, you know, here's several children, here's a dungeon, and yeah, just go wild, right? Do whatever you want. Just go nuts, go crazy. Unfortunately, that is happening, right? You know, people have actually come up and said, children are being abused. Where? No way. Where? Show me where children are being abused. And it's like, wow, okay, you are completely ignorant. This really happens, by the way. This happened today. This happened today. Someone came up and said, children are being abused. No way, no way. Prove it. Where? Where is all this child abuse happening? They actually said that today on my stream, right? They say it all the time. So these people, they're completely ignorant to the suffering. They don't care about the suffering. They don't want to learn how much suffering is in the world, if it's an acceptable amount, if it's... They just don't give a fuck, basically, right? So it would literally take 99% of the population being tortured for them to think, okay, it's 99.1% now, 99.2%. It could be me next, but nah, leave it. I'll be fine. And then guess what? It will get them, and they will be tortured, and they will say, damn, I made a mistake. I regret my decision. So we shouldn't allow even the selfish, crazy people to suffer, right? They want to suffer because they're blind to the reality, to the truth of how bad it will be. We shouldn't let them suffer either. We shouldn't let anyone suffer. Earlier someone came up and said, like, if a child wants to do something, we should just let them do it no matter what. It's like, what are you talking about? Why should we allow life to exist in infinite danger when right round the corner is torture and extreme suffering, right? I want to live. Yeah. I want to live in infinite danger. Sure, why not? Why wouldn't I? It's fine. I'm not suffering. And then right? So they're not expecting it. They're hoping it doesn't happen, but it will happen. So they don't have most humans do not have the responsibility, and it's the same for animals, to think about life in a responsible way, right? They have specifically evolved to not care about suffering, to not care about their own safety, and to not care about the safety of their children or anybody else's safety either, right? So, people are trying to say, you can't, take away people's decisions and try and enforce morality and ethics on them. But look what they're doing, right? They're raping children, they're torturing animals and eating them, they're killing each other, they're being racist. What you really want to respect the autonomy of, a racist pedophile, basically, who is himself going to end up being tortured as well. That's basically what people are supporting. So, I don't know. It's crazy. The thing is, like, there is infinite potential for suffering, and there is, infinite potential for severity of the pain level, the suffering level, how badly you're wishing for death. The possibility is infinite, right? But people don't like to think about that. They like to just ignore that fact. Oh yeah, that pedophile can cause infinite abuse to that child. It's just life, it just happens, right? Let's not think, why are you thinking about the negatives? Why do you have to be so negative, right? Well, if you don't be negative, then you're allowing pedophiles to rape children, right? Of course, we have to focus on the negatives. Otherwise, you're just ignoring it and allowing it, right? So the suffering in the world, for most people, it's just an inconvenience. That's all it is, right? It's an inconvenience. Like, this child is being, tortured, or that, animals are being tortured for meat and stuff. And it's like, stop depressing me, I'm trying to have a nice time here, and you're trying to make me feel bad about all of the suffering in the world. Fuck them, right? What about me? I'm trying to watch Netflix. You're interrupting my TV show. How dare you? I don't know. It's just, humans are just beyond reproach, right? They are truly, they accept infinite suffering. So, yeah, humans will, go along with, a Nazi government. They'll go along with child rape. They'll go along with anything, right? And they are going along with everything. Yeah, it's interesting to think about it, right? They will go along with anything. They will accept any amount of cruelty, any amount of torture. Children, animals are being tortured. I allow it, right? Just any amount. So that's like as immoral as you could possibly be. And this is why I say you either have a zero tolerance policy on suffering, right? You accept zero suffering, or alternatively, you accept infinite suffering, right? There's no two ways about it. You either accept zero suffering or infinite suffering, okay? And again, it's very easy to see that this is true because, you know, the same people that are saying, oh, we should reduce suffering, you know, don't end the suffering. It's very easy to imagine that these people would absolutely supervise, you know, if they were the master of, you know, the universe, right? And all of the planets were full of animals killing each other and torturing each other. There's no fucking way they would do anything about it, right? There's no way they would ever care, right? And if there were some planets where, you know, if there was a planet where the animals are like really, you know, being tortured like just nothing else you've ever seen, like torture planet, right? Torture planet. But it's natural, right? The animals, they're natural, they evolved. The suffering is beyond comprehension, but it's natural. Do you really think these people would give a fuck, right? Do you think they would say, we have to do extinction for this planet to end their suffering? It's too much. No, they're not going to give a fuck, okay? They don't care. They're going to visit the planet, they're going to watch it and say, oh my God, look at the violence. Oh my God, oh yeah, look at the suffering. Oh yes, I love it. Because they don't give a fuck. They're irresponsible. So that will happen, right? That will happen unless we stop it. Unless we do it total extinction and try and control the world, run the world in an ethical way, humans are going to colonize the planets and they're going to create more suffering. They're going to engineer new ways to torture people, new ways to torture animals, right? And they're going to populate new planets full of suffering, full of more animals torturing each other. This will happen because this is specifically the human mentality, right? So humanity 1.0 has a very specific set of principles, essentially. And within those principles, you know, is the acceptance and allowance of infinite cruelty, infinite suffering, but they also think that life existing is a good thing. So, you know, even though it's actually the worst thing possible. So yeah, it's very possible that humans will, you know, go to new planets and fill them with animals, and you'll have trillions, you know, just more and more suffering, basically. The suffering will just grow and grow and grow. And, you know, they'll be listening to the birds singing and the birds whistling, and that's all they'll care about. As long as they get to hear that, they don't care that, you know, 99% of the birds are being eaten alive or starving to death. As long as there's a couple birds that survive that can go, then that's it. The planet can be getting tortured. They don't care. That 99% of animals are being eaten alive as babies. They don't care. They're just few birds are, you know, singing. That's all they care about. So that is the human mentality. And it's also that the more life, the better as well, right? So actually, we can't just say, you know, maybe if we leave humanity, they won't do anything too bad. No, they probably will go and colonize other planets and fill them with animals who are going to torture each other. And guess what? They're going to take it beyond that as well. You know, humans are obsessed with autonomy and respect and consent, right? You know, except for when they're torturing animals, right? That's when they don't care. But apart from that, they will say, right, let's have a Muslim planet, right? So there you go, Muslims. This is your planet now. You know, do all of the child abuse you want, right? We're giving you the autonomy to do it. So they definitely will do that, right? That will happen in the future unless we stop it. There will be, you know, Christian planets, right? Where, you know, they're torturing gay people, whatever the fuck it is, right? People are going to give people their own planet and say, right, I have no right to decide what you do on that planet. If you want to torture children, go for it. If you want to abuse animals, go for it. So that's their responsibility. You know, what right do I have? So, you know, the same people coming up and saying, what authority do you have to say nobody should suffer? These are the same people that will give the authority to Muslims and Christians and sadists and psychopaths to go forth and multiply and cause infinite suffering, right? So you should need authority to cause suffering, not to end suffering. That should be obvious. Anyway, let's see. Do we have time for more? I think so. Let's see who else we got. We've got Chris in the queue. We've got Wretched Be He. So I'm going to bring up a few people from the queue, try and get some. Thank you, Aya. You know, I like to think my speeches are good every now and then, but most people just say boring. This isn't
Yes.
what I'm here for.
Hello, James.
Hello, Az. How you doing?
I'm very good. What about you?
Good, thank you.
You know, I've been watching your content for quite some time right now. Every single day you pop in my feed, you know, because I'm following you, you're following me. Okay. I want to ask you, is there anything specific you enjoy? Do you enjoy anything? Do you like to do anything?
Activism. I enjoy helping others.
Okay, no, I meant something for you specifically. Do you like to do anything? Do you like going to the beach? Do you like going to the gym? Anything?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I'm just a human as well. Well, you know,
You-
humanity 2.0, but we've still got some of the, you know, humanity 1.0 lingering. Yeah, I like TV. You know, I like films, TV shows, video games.
You experience joy?
Yeah,
Yeah?
not so much, but you know, every now and then. Yeah.
Every now and then? When was the last time you were happy?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, I want to ask you something else, and it's within the topic. Okay,
Okay.
do you think that humans are inherently evil?
Yeah, basically, but for supernatural reasons, right? They have evolved to be evil, right? So morality, ethics, being a good person, these are all things that go against evolution, right? Nature doesn't want you to be a good person, right? If the more selfish you are, the more evil you are, the more likely you are to survive and reproduce. So that's all nature cares about, is if you survive and reproduce. It doesn't care about anything else. And so the more selfish you are, the more evil you are, the more likely you are to reproduce and survive. Yeah.
I mean, within the human like social dynamics, you always seem if you are in school, if you are in work, if you are anywhere between like a large number of people, always some type of bullshit happens. You know what I mean? There's always somebody who wants to be at the top of the hierarchy. You know what I mean?
It's a pack of monkeys, basically. You know, humanity is just a pack of monkeys, essentially.
So they are inherently evil.
Look, there's no such thing as good and evil except for the meaning that we give to it, right? Now, I use the word evil, I use the word hell. Even though I'm an atheist, I think they're very good for descriptions. So I think humans are evil, but you know, there's no God or anything. But
It's
evil
it's
because-
nature. Are you saying it's like nature? It's normal
It's
to be
in
evil.
their nature, right? But specifically, you know, the genetics of humans make them evil.
They are predators, basically.
Yeah.
So there's predators and prey in the nature. Okay.
But the prey can be selfish too, right? So even for herbivores, right? If they don't share their food, they're selfish, they're going to survive more. So herbivores and carnivores have both evolved to be selfish in order to survive, right? You couldn't survive unless you were very selfish because the conditions were so harsh. So there was no room to be a nice person, basically. And humanity has that same problem, right? We've come straight from animals, right? We've taken the express elevator from being an animal, a vicious animal, to being a human. But, you know, we've still got, you know, all of the animal nature in us.
The animalistic tendencies, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for your intake. I enjoyed this conversation with you. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Az. Moving on. We've got William. We've got Nom Nom. Let's see who's going to come up. Looks like Nom Nom is going to join us.
Hello.
Hi.
So I'd just like to ask this one question.
Okay.
So, of course, humans came after nature, right? So after so many organisms, and what gives us right to decide which is right, and even like make labels for bad or like
Yeah,
good
so
things?
intelligence gives us the right, essentially. So we
Yeah,
can be
yeah, I
confident
know,
about
but as you said before, we could still be irrational and also rational, and we never know that. We're
yeah,
not
so
like we're
we
not.
have to do what seems to be the right thing at the time.
Yeah, but the society as one, they don't like all agree to make one same decision, just because like they all agree that it's rational. So
Yeah, we aren't expecting everyone to agree. We will do it for them, basically. We don't need them to agree.
yeah. But what gives you right over nature or so many people that you decide which is right or wrong for them, even
Well, I
though
guess intelligence, basically, right?
intelligence, so you believe you're so much smarter than them?
Yeah.
What's your definition of intelligence? Just
Um,
believing in moral rights, or I don't know.
well, it's a big.
I think, of course, like I do feel bad for those children. I would do anything to help them. I would do anything to help those who are suffering. But what you are saying this whole time basically is when anyone tries to debate with you or tries to make their own point, you just you just come at them, you just attack them nonstop. You don't even try to listen to them. You just say I'm right and that's all. So if you're really not bad person yourself, if you really do have more empathy than others, then you're disagreeing with, and then why are you not even taking your time to listen to other people and hear their side and then talk?
Well, I do, but the thing is, we can't give everyone infinite time, right? The thing is, once they start trolling.
But yeah, I know, but like I've noticed that you were really, really aggressive a lot of time. Like you just, I mean, sometimes you really gave good answers, and I really admired that. But yeah, do you really believe you're a good person yourself, like better person than those people?
Yes.
I mean, why? That's what I'm asking. And again, what gives you right to make decisions from them? What makes you even believe you're a better person than them? That's what I want to hear.
Well, I actually care about everyone and every life form and potential life as well. And that's what extinctionists do. We have empathy for all, whereas most people have empathy for nobody. So most people don't give a fuck about animals or anyone else but themselves, whereas we actually care about everyone, every last animal, and every future life form as well. So
Yeah.
that
I
kind of
understand that. I also agree with
that gives
your
us
point.
hope.
But what I'm saying is, I believe like humans made moral and evil and good things. They made those things up, and that does not give them right to push it to every other animals, every other person.
So do you think helping animals is a bad thing?
It's not helping. It could be not helping. We never know. We don't even know much about our universe we're living in. We don't know. We don't have
You don't
knowledge
think
in
extinction
everything.
would help anyone?
But yeah, we should be based if we really want
Let
to
me ask you a
make
question.
big
Do you think
decisions from them.
extinction would help anyone?
We don't know much after all. Like there's very little we know. So,
About what? We don't know anything about what? You're saying that we're ignorant. About what?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. Can you say?
Yeah, you said that we don't know anything about it. What are you talking about?
No, not anything. Like we don't know much. Like what is
About
right, what
what?
is wrong. We
About
don't know.
what? Tell me
We don't
what
know
you're
fully
talking
what
about.
is wrong and right, because we're only humans after all.
Okay,
Like
well,
we don't know everything about this
you're
universe.
projecting. You're projecting. Okay, you haven't thought
Okay,
about
okay.
what's right and wrong.
Yeah.
You have
I
no
mean,
idea.
we could disagree. Of course, we could disagree. You project. You're also projecting, and I'm
Instead of
projecting,
trying to think about
and
what's
that's not a bad thing. That does not
Well,
make.
hang on. You're yapping a bit now. So instead of trying to think about what's right and wrong, you want to just come up here and say, we don't know what's right and wrong, so there's nothing we can do. No, that's the opposite. You should be trying to think, right? What is right? What is wrong? instead of debating, you've come up and instead of presenting some logic or asking questions, you've come up and just started saying, there's no way we could ever know what's right and wrong. We can never help animals. We can never do anything. Just do fucking nothing, everyone. That's the right thing to do. No, that's a terrible opinion, right? We can absolutely decide what's right and wrong. We can talk it through. We can discuss it. We can debate it. So you've come up and accused me of not talking, not debating properly. But then instead of arguing or using logic, you're just going to, make bullshit accusations and say that, there's no way we could ever know what's right and wrong ever, and that we can't even think about it. So I've requested for your mic to be unmuted, but okay, so we need to wait 5 seconds. We'll get it back on. Give it a second. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Nom nom. You should be able to turn your microphone back on. Okay, they left. Well, she got demolished then, didn't she? You're finished. You're done. You're out of here. Look, if some people have criticized me every now and then. They say, James, you're not always perfectly nice. James, you claim to have empathy, but sometimes you kick people out or whatever. But I've got a lot of fun as well. Ollie, hi, how you doing?
Hi. Well, short term I'm doing fine. Long term I'm doing shit. But yeah, I just have like 3 questions. So number 1, you talked about like old people suffering in like homes and stuff. So if like a government were to take place where like the extinctionists they take over, would you add like a maximum age? So we don't suffer anymore?
That's a good question. Yeah, it's a really good question, actually. I've never really thought about that. Would we have a maximum age? The answer is no. It would more likely be on a case-by-case basis, essentially.
Fair enough. Oh yeah, and number 2, you talked about how, capitalism is the optimal, economic system for extinctionism. But I personally think it to be socialism because it creates more equality. And
I guess the main reason for capitalism right now would be that money is the only way to motivate people. So if we have to motivate, if the majority of the population is against extinction and we're running them, or if even, a minority is against extinction, then the only way that they're going to participate and work towards extinction is if they have to do it for money. Right? It's not a nice thing to say, but, if essentially the problem with communism and socialism for extinctionism is that in theory, if there would be no motivation to work towards extinction because people would be not motivated to do it in the first place, and so only money would motivate them to keep working. So that's a possibility.
What about state capitalism? Because if we have normal free market capitalism, we're going to have all these elites controlling everything, controlling all of these capital. So if we have sort of
maybe. Look, I hate capitalism as much as anybody else, right? I am not a fan of capitalism at all. But what we are a fan of is what is necessary for extinction. So you've got a good idea there. State-owned capitalism or whatever. Absolutely. So I think if we take over the world, start running it, we would continue capitalism, for the immediate beginning, and then we would probably explore, right, is there a better way to do this, that can still work for extinction, basically. So I think we would, we wouldn't tear down the system on the first day and say, right, throw capitalism in the bin immediately. We would prioritize the stability for the society over that. And we could look into better systems. But for me, personally, I find it difficult to talk about this because of progressive redundancy, right? So, we're talking about a situation where there's going to be a pro-extinction government. This could be 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now. The economics of the time are probably going to be very different, right? We're probably going to have no jobs anyway. It's going to be robots and AI doing everything. So the world is changing, right? And, there's never been more need for universal basic income, safety nets and stuff like that. So I think it's hard to say, in the same way that we can't say, oh, we're going to use this method for extinction we can't say exactly what the government is going to look like for extinction either, but we can say that, yeah, we would prioritize stability and continuation, but we would also prioritize extinction and the mission and any labor and work that needs to go towards it. So, I mean, one of the reasons people criticize communism is the idea that, there'll be no motivation to work hard, the economy would collapse, all of the important jobs, nobody would be bothered to do them, right? Who's going to want to work your ass off as a lawyer if you're getting paid the same as like somebody at a supermarket? So there's a lot of criticisms against communism and socialism that have to be considered, right? You can't just say, yeah, communism, socialism, do it without thinking about it.
Yeah, fair enough. And my third question is that, well, not really a question, more of a statement, is that I'm sorry for like saying all that stuff, like all rich people should die. We should just tax them to oblivion instead,
I mean, look, we're all tempted to say it every now and then, but ultimately we are against violence, we are against self-harm, and we're also against discrimination, right? But equally, regardless of all of that, you said, we should go and murder the rich people. That's not a realistic way forward anyway. Like, that's not a good strategy.
Maybe just like tax them to oblivion, wealth distribution.
Yeah.
Kill the corrupt ones who, perpetuate slavery and all of that.
Well, if they're going to cause suffering to others, then maybe. But the thing is, most people see this kind of stuff on a micro level, right? Should I be nice to this person? It's just me and them, that nothing else matters. Or, what should we do for the government, right? I want communism. I think it would be good. Most people are thinking about morality in small levels like that. You have to think about it from the entire picture, the whole picture. And what is the most important part of that picture? It's suffering prevention, right? And working towards the most vast and thorough extinction possible. So you have to view all of these moral questions and ethical questions through the lens of what is necessary for extinction, because that is the most important thing. That literally determines the ethics and determines the morality, right? We can cause suffering for extinction. We can prevent suffering for extinction. Pretty much anything is justified, within reason, essentially. So, yeah, that's kind of, you have to be thinking about how does this benefit extinctionism? That's kind of the question to help answer your ethical questions.
Of course, yeah. But yeah, I'll always support you. I'm just always like thinking about the ways we do this, because I'm really into like politics and history and stuff. So I'm always thinking about the politics behind it, how are we going to do it?
That's fair enough.
Yeah, so of course there's going to be some skepticism there. But
but for us though, the thing is, like I was saying, we're not spending our time thinking about, the political system. We spend a little bit on it, but not much, right? What we do spend our time on is activism to make it possible, right? There's no point working out which system you're going to use and then not doing activism to make it happen.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right, thank you, Ollie. Okay, that's good for today, I think. I'm probably going to have to get going, really. So, do I have more time? Probably not really. So, for everyone else, continue the conversation on our Discord. You can find it in 3 different ways. So to find our Discord and our WhatsApp group, you can go on our website, proextinction.com. And if you scroll to the bottom of the page, you will find our Discord and our WhatsApp group, and you can join them. If you're against extinction, but want to join the Discord, then you should mention in your application, I want to debate. Okay, otherwise you'll probably just be rejected. So yeah, go on my profile on TikTok, the links to the Discord, to the website, you'll find them there. Read our manifesto on the website, read our FAQ, and yeah, become an activist. Start making videos for the movement, start growing the pro-extinction movement until we can actually make it possible, right? We have to take action to do the right thing, to make the right thing possible. We have to fight for what we believe in and build a better world, essentially, right? Don't just criticize the world, take action to make the world better. work towards a world that makes sense, right? One where we say no suffering is acceptable. And for anyone else that has any questions, send me a message on TikTok. I'd be happy to answer them. All right, peace out, and we'll see you all